Welcome to tonight's story. Before we begin, if you love tales of forbidden alliances, dangerous secrets, and a woman who refused to bow, hit that like button, drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from, and settle in. Because tonight's story, it's about the girl who walked into the lion's den wearing a silver mask and changed everything. The chandelier above the grand ballroom burned like a constellation of captured stars, casting fractured light across marble floors polished to mirror shine. Music swelled, strings and brass weaving through the low murmur of power being traded in whispers. This was the autumn summit, where the most dangerous families in the realm gathered not to celebrate, but to sharpen their knives beneath velvet gloves. And Alara Vance had no right to be here. She stood at the edge of the dance floor, one gloved hand gripping the silver half-mask that concealed her face. Her gown was borrowed, midnight blue silk that fit well enough to pass, though the hem had been hastily stitched that afternoon. Around her, women glittered in jewels worth more than entire villages. Men moved with the kind of confidence that came from owning land, laws, and lives. Alara owned nothing. She had been 18 the last time she set foot in Drax Hall. Back then, she'd been invisible, a chambermaid's daughter who scrubbed floors and kept her eyes down. The nobles had looked through her like she was glass. That invisibility had been her armor. Now, at 24, she was something far more dangerous. She was the girl who knew too much. "Champagne, miss?" A servant appeared at her elbow, silver tray extended. Alara shook her head, not trusting her voice. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Every instinct screamed at her to turn around, to slip back through the servant's entrance she'd come through, to run before someone recognized her. But she couldn't, because 3 days ago, in a tavern that reeked of smoke and desperation, she'd overheard something that made her blood turn to ice. The Duke won't see dawn after the summit. It's already arranged. And despite everything, despite the fact that Duke Lucian Drax had every reason to despise her family, despite the fact that warning him would put a target on her own back, Alara couldn't let it happen. Not without trying. She moved through the crowd like a ghost, grateful for the masks that turned the ballroom into a theater of beautiful anonymity. Lions and peacocks, wolves and ravens. Each guest wore their chosen face, their real intentions hidden behind silk and feathers. Alara's mask was simple, silver, unadorned, covering just enough. She'd chosen it because it was forgettable. Around her, conversations rose and fell like waves. "Heard the Vance family is bankrupt." Alara's steps faltered. "Serves them right, after what they did." She forced herself to keep moving, even as shame burned hot beneath her skin. Yes, the Vance name was ruined, and yes, it was deserved, but she wasn't here as a Vance tonight. She was here as no one at all. The crowd parted, and suddenly, there he was. Duke Lucian Drax stood at the center of the room like gravity itself had arranged it. Tall, dark-haired, with the kind of presence that made people lean in even when he wasn't speaking. He wore black, stark, and unadorned except for the ducal crest embroidered in silver thread over his heart. His mask was minimal, a black band across his eyes that somehow made him more formidable, not less. He was listening to an older man speak, his expression polite but distant. Alara had seen that look before. The Duke was bored. She'd heard stories about Lucian Drax for years. Some called him ruthless. Others called him fair. The truth, she suspected, was somewhere in between. He'd inherited his title at 20 when his father died under circumstances no one dared question too loudly. In the 6 years since, he'd consolidated power with the kind of precision that made enemies cautious and allies nervous. And in 2 days, if the men in that tavern were to be believed, someone was going to kill him. Alara's pulse thundered in her ears as she moved closer. She had no plan beyond this moment, no strategy except the truth. The older man, Lord Ashford, she recognized him now, gestured grandly as he spoke. "And I told the ambassador, if he wants trade access through the northern pass, he'll have to—" Alara stepped forward. "Your Grace," she said quietly. Both men turned. Lord Ashford's eyebrows rose. Lucien's expression didn't change, but something sharpened in his gaze. "Yes?" His voice was smooth, controlled. A duke's voice. Up close, she could see details the distance had hidden. A thin scar along his jaw. Gray eyes that missed nothing, the kind of watchfulness that came from sleeping with one hand on a blade. Her throat went dry. I need... She stopped, suddenly aware of how insane this was, how reckless. I need to speak with you, privately. It's urgent. Oh, Lord Ashford laughed. A short, dismissive sound. My dear girl, the Duke is occupied. If you have business, submit a petition through proper channels. It's about your life, Alara said, looking directly at Lucien. Someone here wants you dead. The words fell like stones into still water. For 3 seconds, no one moved. Then Lucien's hand came up, a single gesture that silenced Lord Ashford mid-protest. Is that so? The Duke's tone was mild, almost amused, but his eyes had gone cold. And why would someone wearing a mask tell me this? Because I don't want to see you murdered, Alara said simply. And because if I show my face, I'm dead too. Intriguing. He took a step closer. They were nearly the same height. She was tall for a woman, and he wasn't as imposing as some. But the intensity radiating from him made her want to step back. She held her ground. So you risk coming here, to a place you clearly don't belong, to warn a man you don't know? I know enough. Oh, do you? Another step. Now they were close enough that she could smell sandalwood and something darker. Leather, maybe. Smoke. Then tell me, who sent you? What game is this? No game, because if this is an elaborate assassination attempt, he continued, voice dropping lower, I should tell you that I don't respond well to threats, even pretty ones delivered by mysterious women. Heat flooded her cheeks. I'm not... This isn't... Then what is it? She met his eyes, and for a moment everything else fell away. The ballroom, the music, the danger. Your enemies are already inside your walls, she said. I heard them planning. 2 days from now, during the hunt, they're going to... Lucienne! A woman's voice cut through the space between them like a blade. There you are. I've been looking everywhere. Lady Vivian Hale swept toward them in crimson silk, her gold mask studded with rubies. She was beautiful in the way that weapons were beautiful, sharp, polished, deadly. And she was looking at Alara like she was an insect that needed crushing. Who's this? Vivian asked, though her tone made it clear she didn't actually care. No one, Alara said quickly. I was just leaving. Wait. Lucien's hand shot out, not quite touching her arm, but close enough to stop her. You can't drop something like that and walk away. Watch me. She turned, heart racing, and plunged back into the crowd. Behind her, she heard Vivian's laugh, high, crystalline, mocking. Really, Lucienne, you should be more selective about who you entertain. That gown was 2 seasons old. Alara's hands clenched into fists, but she kept walking. Past the dancers, past the tables laden with food no one was eating. Toward the servants' corridor that would take her out of this glittering nightmare. She'd done what she came to do. She'd warned him. What he did with that warning was no longer her problem. The cool air of the corridor hit her like a blessing. She yanked off the mask, gulping oxygen, her hands shaking so badly she nearly dropped it. That was either very brave or very stupid. Alara spun around. Lucien stood 5 feet away, mask now removed, studying her with an expression she couldn't read. How did you... I know every exit in this building, he said, including the ones servants think are secret. He moved closer, slow and deliberate, like approaching a spooked horse. Now, let's try this again. Who are you, and what exactly did you hear? I told you. You told me nothing. His voice was sharp now, stripped of pretense. You warned me, yes, dramatically, but you gave me no names, no specifics, nothing I can actually use. So either you're here to waste my time, or... He paused, eyes narrowing. Or you know more than you're saying. Alara's back hit the wall. She hadn't realized she'd been retreating. I heard 3 men, she said, words tumbling out in a rush. In the Blackheart Tavern, 3 nights ago. They didn't give names, but they talked about the hunt. About making it look like an accident. A crossbow bolt gone astray, they said. Clean. Deniable. And you came all the way here to warn me about tavern gossip? It wasn't gossip. Frustration sharpened her voice. I know a plot when I hear one. I know the sound of men planning murder. Do you? Something shifted in his expression. And how exactly would you know that? She'd said too much. Panic fluttered in her chest. I should go. You should answer the question. He planted one hand against the wall beside her head, not threatening, but blocking her escape nonetheless. Because right now you're either a concerned stranger who risked a great deal to warn me, or you're part of whatever this is, testing my defenses, seeing if I'll take the bait. I'm not. Then prove it. His eyes searched hers. Take off the metaphorical mask. Tell me who you are. Every survival instinct she had screamed no. Because if Lucienne Drax knew who she really was, if he connected her to the Vance family, to the disgrace and betrayal that name carried, he would have her thrown out. Or worse. But looking into his eyes, seeing the cold calculation there, she realized he wouldn't let this go. He would find out anyway. Alara, she whispered. My name is Alara Vance. She watched recognition hit him like a physical blow. His expression went from suspicious to incredulous to furious in the space of a heartbeat. Vance, he repeated, voice deadly quiet. As in the family that sold secrets to my enemies? The family whose patriarch tried to embezzle from my treasury? That Vance? Yes. And you thought, what? That I would trust a single word from you? I thought you might want to live, she shot back, finding her spine again. My family's crimes don't change what I heard, and if you're too proud to listen just because of my name, pride has nothing to do with it. He stepped back, and the loss of his proximity felt like cold water. Your father nearly destroyed this duchy. Your brother... He stopped, jaw working. Where's Marcus, by the way? Does he know you're here? My brother, Alara said coldly, is the reason I came alone. That stopped him. Explain. She shouldn't. She really, really shouldn't. But something about the way he looked at her, like he was trying to solve a puzzle rather than condemn her outright, made the truth spill out. My father is dead, she said. He died in debtor's prison 6 months ago. Everything we had is gone. The estate, the money, the title, all of it seized. Marcus and I are living in a boarding house in the merchant quarter, barely scraping by. She lifted her chin. So no, Your Grace, I'm not here on behalf of my family. I'm here because I heard men plotting to kill you, and despite everything, I couldn't just let it happen. Silence stretched between them. Lucienne's expression was unreadable. Why? He asked finally. Why what? Why warn me? If your family lost everything because of me, not because of you, she interrupted, because of my father's choices, because he was greedy and stupid and thought he could steal from a duke without consequences. The words tasted bitter. He deserved what he got. We all did, probably. But that doesn't mean I want to watch another man die because someone else is playing games. Noble of you. It's not noble. It's just right. He studied her for a long moment, and she had the unsettling feeling he could see straight through to her bones. The hunt is in 2 days, he said slowly. If what you heard is true, I have very little time to identify the threat and neutralize it. Yes. I'll need details. Everything you remember about these men, their voices, their appearances, anything that might help identify them. I can do that. Good. He turned, already moving back toward the ballroom. You'll stay here tonight. I'll have a room prepared. No. He stopped. Excuse me? I can't stay here. If my brother finds out where I've been... She swallowed hard. He can't know about any of this. Your brother, Lucian said, something dark crossing his face, is the least of your worries right now. If you leave and someone sees you, if word gets out that you were here, that you spoke to me, you'll be dead before dawn. I've been invisible my whole life. I know how to disappear. Not from people who killed dukes, he said flatly. You're staying. That's not a request. Alara opened her mouth to argue, but the look on his face stopped her. This was a man who gave orders and expected them to be followed. And despite herself, despite everything, she felt the strangest flutter of something that might have been relief. She'd spent 3 days terrified and alone, carrying a secret that felt like swallowing glass. For the first time since that tavern, someone else knew. Someone else was carrying the weight. Fine, she said. But just tonight. Tomorrow, I'm gone. We'll see. He led her through a maze of corridors, away from the ballroom's noise and light. The servants they passed kept their eyes down, trained not to see. Alara recognized the choreography, the invisible dance of people who served power. She'd been one of them once. Finally, Lucian stopped before a door, producing a key from somewhere in his jacket. "This was my mother's sitting room," he said, unlocking it. "No one uses it anymore. You'll be safe here." The room beyond was beautiful in a faded way. Silk wallpaper in pale gold, furniture covered in dust cloths, windows overlooking the gardens below. "There's a bedroom through there," Lucian continued, gesturing. "Lock the door. Don't answer if anyone knocks unless they identify themselves as me or my personal guard, Captain Thorne." "Captain Thorne," she repeated. "Tall, scarred, perpetually looks like he wants to stab something. You'll know him when you see him." Despite everything, a laugh bubbled up in her chest. "Sounds charming. He is, actually, in his own way." Lucian handed her the key. "Get some rest. We'll talk more in the morning." He turned to leave. "Your Grace?" He looked back. "Thank you," Alara said quietly, "for believing me. Or at least, for not having me thrown out on sight." Something flickered in his expression, too fast for her to name. "Don't thank me yet," he said, "because if I find out you're lying, if this is some elaborate scheme, it's not. Then you'll wish I had thrown you out." The door closed behind him with a soft click. Alara stood alone in the golden room, her heart still racing, and wondered what exactly she'd just set in motion. She didn't sleep. How could she? Every creak of the old house sounded like footsteps. Every whisper of wind against the windows sounded like voices. And beneath it all, one thought kept circling. Marcus was going to kill her, her brother, the only family she had left. The man who'd looked at her 3 days ago with eyes full of cold fury and said, "You owe me, Alara, after everything I've done to keep us fed, to keep a roof over our heads. You owe me this." This being a simple task, get into the autumn summit. Get close to someone, anyone, in the Duke's inner circle. Feed Marcus information. Nothing dangerous, nothing that would hurt anyone, just information. And like a fool, she'd said yes. Because Marcus was right. He had kept them afloat after their father's disgrace. He'd found them that awful boarding house. He'd scraped together money for food. He'd protected her when their father's creditors came calling. She owed him everything. But then she'd heard those men in the tavern, and suddenly the simple task felt like a noose around her neck. Alara rose from the bed as dawn light crept through the windows, painting everything in shades of gray and gold. She'd spent the night in her borrowed gown, too afraid to undress, too wired to relax. A knock at the door made her jump. "Miss Vance?" A woman's voice, firm but not unkind. "His Grace requests your presence in his private study. I'm to escort you." Alara opened the door to find a middle-aged woman in a housekeeper's black dress, steel gray hair pulled back in a severe bun. "I'm Mrs. Hartwell," the woman said. "Follow me, please." The corridors were different in daylight, less mysterious, more mundane. Servants moved with quiet efficiency, preparing the house for another day of summit activities. Mrs. Hartwell led her to a heavy oak door and knocked twice. "Enter." The study was smaller than Alara expected, lined with books and maps. Morning sun streamed through tall windows. Lucian stood behind a massive desk, still in last night's clothes, looking like he hadn't slept either. Captain Thorne stood beside him, and yes, he did look like he wanted to stab something. "Miss Vance," Lucy Cien said. "Sit." She sat. "Tell us everything," he said. "From the beginning." So she did. The tavern. The 3 men in the corner, voices low but not quite low enough. The way they'd laughed about crossbows and hunting accidents, the casual cruelty in their planning. "I didn't see their faces clearly," she admitted. "The tavern was dark and I was trying not to be noticed. But I heard accents, northern, I think. And one of them mentioned a lordling who was getting impatient." "Lordling," Thorne repeated, voice like gravel. "That narrows it down to about 100 suspects." "She's given us more than we had," Lucian said. He looked at Alara. Anything else? Any detail, no matter how small? She closed her eyes, trying to remember. One of them had a ring, she said slowly. I noticed it when he reached for his drink. Silver, with some kind of crest. A raven, maybe, or a crow? Lucian and Thorn exchanged a look. House Corvain, Thorn said. Could be coincidence, Lucian replied, but his expression said he didn't believe in coincidences. Your Grace, Alara ventured, what happens now? Now, he said, you stay here, under guard, until we've identified and dealt with the threat. I told you, I can't. Miss Vance? His voice cut through her protest like a blade. Someone is trying to kill me. You're the only witness to that plot, which makes you either incredibly valuable or incredibly dangerous, depending on whether you're telling the truth. I believe you, he said, and the words surprised her. Or at least, I believe you believe what you heard. But until I know who else is involved, you're staying where I can see you. My brother will be told you've taken a position in my household, Lucienne said smoothly. Temporary work during the summit, perfectly respectable. Alara's stomach dropped. He'll never believe that. Then he'll come asking questions, and we'll see how he reacts. Lucienne's eyes were hard. Either way, you're not leaving until this is resolved. She wanted to argue, to fight, but looking at him, at the steel in his gaze, she knew it would be pointless. Fine, she said, but when this is over, when you've caught whoever's planning this, I walk away, clean, no debt, no obligation. Agreed. She should have felt relief. Instead, she felt like she'd just made a bargain with something far more dangerous than assassins. As she stood to leave, Lucian spoke again. Miss Vance, one more thing. She turned. Why didn't you just send an anonymous letter? Why risk coming here yourself? The question hung in the air. Alara could have lied. Should have lied. But somehow, looking at him, she found herself telling the truth. Because I needed to see your eyes when I warned you, she said quietly. I needed to know if you were worth saving. And? Something flickered in his expression. Am I? She met his gaze, this man who held her family's ruin in his hands, this duke who could destroy what little she had left. I'll let you know, she said, when this is over, and walked out before he could respond. The next 36 hours passed in a strange suspension. Alara was given a room, a real one this time, with fresh clothes and meals brought on trays. Mrs. Hartwell proved surprisingly kind, if brisk. Captain Thorne stationed guards outside her door. She was a prisoner in everything but name, but she was also alive. Fed. Safe. It was more than she'd had in months. On the morning of the hunt, Alara watched from her window as nobles gathered in the courtyard below. Horses stamped and snorted, dogs bayed. Men and women in riding clothes laughed and called to each other, performing casual confidence. Somewhere in that crowd was a killer. A knock at her door made her turn. His Grace wants to see you, a guard said. She found Lucien in his study again, this time in hunting gear, dark leather and practical wool, bow slung across his back. We've identified 3 possible suspects, he said without preamble. Lord Corvain, obviously. Lord Ashford, the man you interrupted last night, has gambling debts and motive. And Lady Vivian Hale's father would benefit significantly from my absence. Lady Vivian? Alara's eyebrows rose. She didn't seem like an assassin? Lucian's smile was thin. No, but her father is desperate, and desperate men do foolish things. He checked his weapons with practiced efficiency. Thorn will be with me. We're ready. And if they try anyway? Then we catch them in the act. He looked up, eyes meeting hers. And we make an example. The coldness in his voice sent a chill down her spine. This was the Duke, she realized. Not the man who'd listened to her in the corridor, who'd given her shelter. This was the ruler who'd crushed her family without mercy. Be careful, she heard herself say. He paused. Concerned, Miss Vance. I'm touched. I didn't come all this way just to watch you get killed by an arrow, she said tartly. Fair enough. He moved toward the door, then stopped. If something goes wrong, if I don't come back, Thorn will get you out safely. He has instructions. Nothing will go wrong. You can't know that. No, she agreed, but I can hope. Their eyes held for a moment. Then he was gone, boots echoing down the corridor, and Alara was alone with her fear. The hours crawled by like wounded things. Alara paced her room, sat, stood, paced again. Through the window, she could see the hunting party disappear into the forest, a distant line of horses and color swallowed by green. What if she'd been wrong? What if the men in the tavern had been drunk, boasting, planning nothing real? What if Lucian died because she'd sent him hunting phantoms? The sun climbed higher. Noon came and went. Alara's nails were bitten to the quick. Then finally, the sound of hooves on gravel. She ran to the window. The hunting party was returning. Horses moved at a walk, not a gallop, no panic, no chaos. But something was different. Where there had been perhaps 30 riders before, now there were only 25. And in the center of the group, 3 men rode with their hands bound. Alara's breath caught. They'd caught them. She wasn't summoned until evening. By then, word had spread through the estate like wildfire. An assassination attempt. Caught red-handed. 3 nobles arrested. The autumn summit was over. Families packed and left in tight-lipped silence, not wanting to be associated with treason. When the guard finally came for Alara, he led her not to the study but to a small drawing room. Lucienne stood by the window, glass of amber liquid in hand, watching the last carriages depart. It was Lord Corvain, he said without turning, and 2 of his men. They tried during the chaos of the hunt, just like you said. Crossbow bolt. Made to look like an accident. He turned, and she saw the tear in his jacket sleeve, the bandage beneath. If Thorn hadn't been watching, if we hadn't been ready... You're hurt. Barely. The bolt grazed me. He set down the glass. They're in custody. By tomorrow, they'll be executed. Alara's stomach turned. All 3? They tried to kill a duke. His voice was flat. The law is clear. She nodded slowly. She'd expected nothing less. Your brother came looking for you, Lucian said. Fear spiked through her. What did you tell him? That you were employed in the kitchens during the summit, that you did well, that we might have further work for you in the future. He watched her carefully. He didn't seem pleased. No, he wouldn't be. Why not? The question was casual, too casual. Alara chose her words carefully. Marcus has expectations of how I should behave, what I should do. And working in a duke's kitchen doesn't meet those expectations. Nothing I do meets those expectations. Lucien was quiet for a moment. You're free to go, he said finally. As promised, no debt, no obligation. There'll be a purse of gold waiting for you, payment for your service, officially. Enough to keep you and your brother comfortable for a few months. She should have felt relief, freedom, money, safety. Instead, she felt hollow. Thank you, she said. Don't thank me. His expression was unreadable. You saved my life, Alara Vance. The gold is the least I owe you. She turned to go. One more thing. She stopped. If you ever need help, Lucian said quietly, come to me. Not through official channels. Not through your brother. You, personally. Do you understand? Alara looked back at him, this man who should have been her enemy, who had every reason to hate her name. Why would you do that? Because, he said, you chose to do the right thing, even when it cost you. That's rare. Worth protecting. Something warm unfurled in her chest, dangerous and unwelcome. I'll remember, she said, and left before she could do something foolish, like stay. The boarding house smelled the same as always, mildew and old cooking grease and desperation. Alara climbed the stairs to their cramped room, the purse of gold hidden beneath her cloak. Marcus sat at the table, cards spread before him. He didn't look up when she entered. You're back, he said flatly. I'm back. Kitchen work. He finally raised his eyes. That's the story you're going with? It's the truth. Is it? He stood, and she saw the anger simmering beneath his carefully controlled expression. Because I heard interesting things, Alara, about a masked woman who spoke to the Duke, about a warning that saved his life. Her heart stopped. Marcus, what did you do? His voice was low, dangerous. What did you tell him? I told him someone was trying to kill him. That's all. That's all? He laughed, short, bitter. That was supposed to be my play, my information, my way back into the game. And you. He stepped closer. You gave it to him for free. People were going to die. Who cares? The shout made her flinch. Who cares if a duke dies? He destroyed us. He took everything. Father destroyed us, Alara shot back. By stealing, by lying. Drax just enforced the law. And you defend him now, after everything. I'm not defending anyone. I'm just... She struggled for words. I'm trying to do the right thing. The right thing, Marcus repeated. His smile was cold. You always were naive. He moved to the window, staring out at the dirty street below. I had plans, he said quietly. Ways to rebuild. To take back what was ours. And you've made it all so much harder. I'm sorry. No, you're not. He turned back to her. But you will be. Fear crawled up her spine. What does that mean? It means, Marcus said, that you're going to fix this. You got close to the Duke once. You'll do it again. Marcus, no. You'll do it, he continued, voice hard as iron, or I'll make sure everyone knows exactly how deeply the Vance family was involved in that assassination plot, how you were the inside contact, how you played both sides. Alara's blood turned to ice. That's not true. Who cares what's true? It'll be convincing enough, and the Duke will have you executed right alongside the others. You're my brother, and you, he said softly, are going to help me, whether you want to or not. The room spun. This was her family, her blood, the only person she had left in the world, and he was going to use her like a weapon. What do you want me to do? She whispered. Marcus smiled and began to explain. The morning after Marcus laid out his plan, Alara stood in front of the cracked mirror in their boarding house room and barely recognized herself. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Her hands trembled as she tried to pin up her hair. She'd slept perhaps 2 hours, haunted by her brother's words, by the choice he'd forced upon her. You look terrible, Marcus said from the doorway. He was already dressed, his own face carefully neutral. Good. The Duke will feel sorry for you. This is insane, Alara whispered. He'll see through it immediately. He won't, because you're going to be convincing. Marcus crossed the room, gripping her shoulders and turning her to face him. Listen to me. You tell him I've threatened you, that I'm forcing you to spy on him. You'll beg for his protection. And then? Then you stay close to him. You become useful, indispensable. You feed me real information about his security, his routines, his vulnerabilities. His fingers tightened. And when the time is right, we strike. Alara jerked away. You want me to help you kill him? I want you to help me take back what's ours, Marcus corrected. The Duke ruined our family. This is justice. It's murder. Call it what you want. His eyes were cold. But you're doing it, because if you don't, I'll burn you both. 3 hours later, Alara stood at the servants' entrance of Drax Hall, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. A young footman answered her knock. Yes? I need to see Duke Drax, she said. My name is Alara Vance. Tell him I'm accepting his offer. The footman's eyebrows rose, but he stepped aside. Wait here. She waited in a small antechamber, counting her breaths, trying to slow her racing pulse. What if Lucian didn't remember his offer? What if he'd simply been making polite conversation, never expecting her to actually, Miss Vance? She spun around. Lucien stood in the doorway, dressed for the day in dark blue wool, his expression guarded. This is unexpected. You said if I ever needed help. I did. He studied her with those sharp gray eyes. What's happened? The words stuck in her throat. She'd practiced them 100 times on the walk here, but now, facing him, they felt like betrayal on her tongue. My brother, she managed. He knows what I did, about the warning, and he's not happy. Lucien's expression darkened. Did he hurt you? No, not yet. But he will. Or worse. She forced herself to meet his eyes. He wants me to spy on you, to report back on your security, your habits. He thinks there's still a way to... She stopped, swallowing hard. I don't know what he's planning, but I know it's dangerous, and I know he'll use me to do it. The silence stretched like piano wire. Why come to me? Lucien asked quietly. You could have run, left the city entirely. With what money? I spent most of what you gave me on overdue rent. The lie came easier than she expected. In truth, the purse sat hidden in her mattress, untouched. And Marcus would find me anyway. He always does. So instead, you're here, warning me again. Yes. And asking for what, exactly? Protection? Alara lifted her chin. Employment. Real employment. Something that keeps me close enough to you that Marcus can't get to me, but far enough from him that I'm safe. You want me to make you a target, Lucien said flatly. I'm already a target, at least this way. I'm a target in a fortress. He turned away, pacing to the window. She could see the tension in his shoulders, the careful control he kept over every movement. You understand what you're asking, he said without looking at her. If I take you into my household, if I give you access to my private affairs, people will talk. They'll assume things. Heat flooded her cheeks. I don't care what people assume. Oh, you should. Reputation is currency in this world. I have no reputation left to lose. That made him turn back. Everyone has something to lose, Miss Vance. Then I'll be careful, she said. I'll work. I'll earn my place. I'll do whatever you need. What I need, Lucien said, voice dropping to something dangerous, is to know whether you're telling me the truth, or whether this is exactly what your brother planned, getting you inside my walls, making me trust you. The accusation cut deeper than it should have. Because it was true. I can't prove my intentions, Alara said carefully. I can only show you through my actions. Words are easy. Actions can be lies too. Then what would convince you? He studied her for a long moment, and she had the uncomfortable feeling he was weighing her like a piece of chess, calculating moves and countermoves. Captain Thorne will question you, he said finally. Thoroughly. If he believes you're lying, this conversation ends and you leave. Immediately. Understood? Relief and terror warred in her chest. Understood. Wait here. He left and Alara sank into a chair, her legs suddenly weak. What had she just done? Captain Thorne arrived 10 minutes later, looking exactly as welcoming as a granite cliff. Miss Vance, he said, come with me. He led her to a small office, bare walls, single desk, 2 chairs, the kind of room designed for uncomfortable conversations. Sit. She sat. Thorne remained standing, arms crossed, studying her like she was a puzzle with missing pieces. The Duke says your brother is threatening you, he said without preamble. Tell me about Marcus Vance. So she did. About how Marcus had changed after their father's arrest, how the desperation had hardened him, turned him from her protective older brother into something colder, more calculating. How he'd started associating with dangerous men, making dangerous plans. He blames the Duke for everything, Alara said. For father's death, for our poverty, for the shame. He can't see that we brought it on ourselves. And he wants to use you to get close to Lucien. Yes. Why should I believe you're not here willingly, that this isn't exactly what he planned? Alara had known this question was coming. She'd rehearsed the answer, but sitting across from Thorne's penetrating stare, the rehearsed words felt hollow. Because, she said quietly, if I wanted to hurt the Duke, I had my chance at the summit. I could have stayed silent, let the assassins do their work, collected whatever payment Marcus had arranged. Maybe you're playing a longer game. Maybe I am, she admitted, but not the one you think. Thorne's eyebrow rose. Explain. I'm trying to survive, Captain. That's the only game I know how to play. She leaned forward. My brother is going to destroy himself. I can see it. The hate is eating him alive. And if I stay with him, he'll take me down too. So you're here to save yourself. I'm here, Alara said, because the Duke offered me a choice. and I'm choosing not to drown with my brother. Silence filled the room. Thorn's expression gave away nothing. Finally, he nodded. Stay here. He left, and Alara waited, counting the cracks in the ceiling, trying to breathe around the knot in her chest. When Thorn returned, Lucienne was with him. She's telling the truth, Thorn said, or she believes she is. Either way, she's more useful inside than out. Agreed, Lucian looked at Alara. You'll work as a companion to my ward, Lady Iris. She's 17, bookish, and desperately bored. You'll keep her company, help with correspondence, accompany her on outings. In exchange, you'll have a room, meals, and a small salary. Your ward. Alara hadn't known he had one. My cousin's daughter. Her parents died 2 years ago. She's my responsibility now. His expression softened slightly. She's good-hearted, but sheltered. She could use someone closer to her own age. I'm hardly a suitable companion for a lady. Let me worry about what's suitable, Lucian interrupted. The position is yours if you want it. I do. Then it's settled. He moved toward the door, then paused. One rule, Miss Vance, if your brother contacts you, when he contacts you, you tell me immediately, no exceptions. Of course. I mean it. The moment he makes contact, I need to know. I understand. He held her gaze a moment longer, then left. Thorn remained studying her with those sharp eyes. You're either very brave or very stupid, he said. Can't I be both? A smile ghosted across his scarred face. Fair enough. Come on. I'll show you to your room. Lady Iris turned out to be everything Lucian had promised, bookish, bored, and startlingly kind. She greeted Alara with genuine warmth, immediately pulling her into a rambling conversation about the novel she was reading, and wasn't it wonderful that she'd finally have someone to discuss books with? The servants are lovely, of course, Iris said, settling onto the window seat in her bright, cluttered sitting room. But they're always so busy. And Lucian tries, bless him, but he has no patience for fiction. None at all, Alara asked, charmed despite herself. He reads strategy and history and horrible dry political treatises. Last week I tried to get him to read poetry, and he looked at me like I'd suggested we burn down the library. Iris giggled. He's brilliant, but he's terribly serious about everything. Alara found herself smiling. He does seem focused. That's a kind way of putting it. Iris leaned forward conspiratorially. Don't let him intimidate you. He's actually quite decent once you get past all the ducal authority. I'll keep that in mind. The first week passed in a blur of routine. Mornings with Iris, reading and discussing books. Afternoons helping with correspondence. Thank you notes and social obligations that seemed to multiply like weeds. Evenings in her small but comfortable room, trying not to think about Marcus. Trying not to wonder when he would come calling. She saw Lucien only at dinner and always with others present. Iris, Thorn, sometimes visiting nobles. He was polite, distant, treating her with the same formal courtesy he showed all his household staff. It should have been a relief. Instead, it felt like a splinter under her skin. On the 8th day, a note arrived. Alara found it slipped under her door at dawn, a single folded piece of paper with no signature. The Black Heart Tavern. Tonight, 9 o'clock. Come alone. Her hands shook as she read it. Marcus. For several long minutes, she stared at the note, Lucien's words echoing in her head. The moment he makes contact, I need to know. She should go to the Duke immediately, tell him everything. But something held her back. What if she could fix this herself? What if she could talk Marcus down, convince him to abandon whatever insane plan he was brewing? What if she could save them both? The thought was stupid, reckless. But she pocketed the note anyway. That evening, she told Iris she had a headache and retired early. She waited until the house grew quiet, then slipped out through the servants' entrance, heart hammering. The Black Heart looked exactly as she remembered. Dim, crowded, smelling of ale and desperation. Marcus sat in the same corner as before, a tankard in front of him, eyes hard. You came, he said as she slid into the seat across from him. You didn't give me much choice. There's always a choice, sister. You're just making smarter ones now. He leaned back, studying her. So, how's life in the Duke's household? Marcus, please. We can still walk away from this. Tell me about the security. The words were sharp, final. Alara's throat tightened. I don't know anything about security. I'm a companion to his ward. I spend my days reading novels and writing thank you notes. You live there. You see things. I see servants and books, and his hand shot across the table, gripping her wrist hard enough to hurt. Don't play stupid. How many guards? What shifts do they work? What are the weak points? I don't know. Then figure it out. He released her, sitting back. You have 2 weeks. Then I'm coming to collect. Marcus, this is insane. You can't. I can, and you're going to help me. His smile was cold. Unless you want me to tell the Duke about our little family business. What business? The ledgers, Alara. The ones Father kept before he died. The ones that show exactly how deep into Drax's treasury we were stealing, and whose idea it was in the first place. Ice flooded her veins. That's not possible. Father burned those. He burned copies. I kept the originals. Marcus leaned forward. Did you really think I'd let our only insurance go up in smoke? Those ledgers would implicate you too. Would they? Because from what I recall, most of the handwriting is yours. You did love helping Father with his accounts. The room spun. She had helped. When she was 16, 17, thinking she was learning bookkeeping, not knowing or not wanting to know where those numbers came from. You're lying, she whispered. Am I? Do you want to find out what the Duke would do if he saw proof that you were involved in embezzling from him? Marcus's eyes glittered. I'm guessing it wouldn't end well for you. Alara stood, chair scraping against the floor. I'm not doing this. Yes, Marcus said softly. You are, because you're smart enough to know you don't have a choice. She walked out before she could do something stupid, like scream or cry, or admit he was right. The walk back to Drax Hall felt endless. Her mind raced, turning over options, discarding them one by one. She could tell Lucian, but what proof did she have that Marcus was lying about the ledgers? And even if he was, the accusation alone might be enough to destroy what little trust she'd built. She could run. But where? With what money? She could do what Marcus asked. Spy, gather information, help him with whatever destruction he'd planned, become a traitor in truth, not just accusation. The servant's entrance loomed ahead. She slipped inside, grateful for the darkness, for the late hour that meant most of the household was asleep. Out for a midnight stroll, Miss Vance? Alara froze. Lucian stood at the top of the servant's stairs, still dressed, arms crossed. Your Grace, her mind scrambled for excuses. I couldn't sleep. I went for air. Did you? It wasn't a question. And did you find what you were looking for? I don't. You were followed, he said flatly. From the moment you left the estate, Thorn's men watched you walk to the Black Heart, watched you meet with your brother, watched you return. The world tilted. You had me followed? I had you protected, Lucienne corrected. There's a difference. Anger flared, hot and bright. You don't trust me. Should I? He descended the stairs slowly, each step deliberate. You received a note. You hid it. You snuck out to meet the very person you claimed to fear. So tell me, Miss Vance, why should I trust you? I was trying to fix it. By lying to me? I wasn't. She stopped, swallowed hard. I thought I could reason with him, make him see sense. And did you? The question hung between them like a blade. No, Alara admitted. He threatened me. Said he had evidence that would prove I was involved in my father's embezzling. Said he'd show it to you unless I helped him. Lucienne went very still. What evidence? Ledgers, with my handwriting. The words came out brittle. I didn't know what I was writing. I was just helping with the accounts. But it doesn't matter, does it? If it looks like I was involved? Let me see the note. She pulled it from her pocket with shaking hands. He read it, expression unreadable, then looked up. From now on, he said quietly, you tell me everything, every contact, every threat, every whisper. You don't try to fix it yourself. You don't try to protect me. You trust that I know how to handle my own enemies. Understood? Yes. Good. He moved past her, heading for his study. Follow me. They walked in silence through the darkened halls. In his study, Lucian poured 2 glasses of brandy, handing her one. "Drink," he said. "You look like you need it." She did, the liquor burning down her throat, steadying her jangled nerves. "Your brother is going to push harder now," Lucian said. "He'll escalate, threaten worse things, try to force your hand." "I know." "And we're going to let him." Alara's head snapped up. "What?" "You're going to feed him information," Lucian said calmly. "False information. Things that sound useful but lead nowhere. We'll control what he knows, what he thinks he knows. You want me to spy for you. I want you to help me catch him before he does something that gets someone killed." Lucian's eyes were hard. "Your brother is dangerous, Alara. Left unchecked, he'll either succeed in whatever he's planning or he'll die trying. Either way, innocent people will get hurt. And you think using me as bait will stop that?" "I think," he said carefully, "that you're already bait. The question is whether you're bait in a trap we control or bait in a trap Marcus springs." The logic was sound. She hated how sound it was. "What kind of information?" she asked. "Patrol schedules, but wrong times. Security weak points, but actually heavily guarded. Trade routes that lead to nothing valuable." He set down his glass. "Enough to keep him engaged, make him think he's winning. Until he makes his move, then we catch him." "And execute him," Alara said flatly, "like the others." Lucian's expression didn't change. "If he commits treason, yes, that's the law." "He's my brother." "I know." Something almost like sympathy crossed his face. "And I'm sorry for that, but I won't let sentiment blind me to danger." Alara drained her glass, the brandy no longer burning. "If I do this," she said slowly, "I need your word. When we catch him, if we catch him, you'll give me a chance to talk to him first, to convince him to stand down. And if he won't, then I step aside and let you do what you have to do." Lucian studied her for a long moment. "Agreed," he said finally. "But, Alara, you understand what this means? If we succeed, your brother goes to prison or worse. If we fail, we might both end up dead. There's no good outcome here." "There hasn't been a good outcome for the Vance family in 2 years," she said bitterly. "I'm used to it." "That doesn't make it easier." "No." She met his eyes. "But it makes it necessary." Over the following days, Alara became a different kind of prisoner. She moved through the estate with new eyes, noting details she'd never paid attention to before. Guard positions, shift changes, the rhythms of household routine. At night, she met with Lucien and Thorne, reporting what she'd seen. They corrected her observations, taught her what to look for, shaped the false intelligence she would feed Marcus. "Make it believable," Thorne instructed. "Don't give him everything at once. Let him pull it out of you. Make him think he's winning." Lady Iris remained blissfully unaware, chattering about books and gossip and the upcoming winter festival. Alara smiled and nodded and felt like she was living 2 lives, one in daylight, innocent and simple, one in shadow, dangerous and complex. The weight of it pressed on her chest like stones. 2 weeks after the tavern meeting, another note arrived. "Same place. Tomorrow night. Don't disappoint me." "He's getting impatient," Lu Yen said, reading it in his study. "He's always impatient," Alara replied. "It's when he slows down that you should worry. Then we give him something to chew on." Lucien pulled out a map marking locations. "Tell him about the Western Patrol route. Say it's undermanned on Wednesdays between midnight and 2. That's when the shift change happens. And in reality, I'll have 20 men waiting." Alara traced the route with her finger, memorizing. "He'll bring backup. He's not stupid. I'm counting on it. The more of them we can catch at once, the better." That night, sleep eluded her entirely. She lay in her narrow bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about family and loyalty, and the point where one became poison to the other. Marcus had been good once. Before their father's arrest, before the shame and poverty. He'd taught her to ride, to play cards, to stand up for herself. When had that person disappeared? Or had he ever really existed? A soft knock at her door made her sit up. "Miss Vance?" Mrs. Hartwell's voice, quiet. "The Duke requests your presence. Urgent." Alara dressed quickly, pulse jumping. She found Lucien in the entrance hall, dressed for riding, face grim. "What's happened?" she asked. "Your brother didn't wait." He handed her a message, ink still wet. "He's making his move tonight," she read, stomach dropping. "The Duke's procession to the trade summit. Dawn, ambush on the North Road." "How did you—" "I have sources," Lucien said, "and apparently better ones than Marcus realizes." He was already moving toward the door. "We're intercepting. Now. I'm coming with you." "No." "He's my brother. If there's a chance I can stop this, if there's a chance of violence, I want you nowhere near it," Lucien said firmly. "And if he sees me, it might make him hesitate, give you an opening." Thorn appeared, fully armed. "She has a point." Lucien's jaw worked. "Fine, but you stay behind the line. Behind me, behind Thorn, behind every armed man we have. Understood?" "Understood." They rode out into the pre-dawn darkness, 20 soldiers moving quiet as ghosts. The North Road cut through dense forest, perfect for ambush. Lucien positioned his men along the ridges, creating a counter-ambush. And they waited. Dawn broke cold and gray. At first, nothing, just bird calls and wind in the trees. Then, movement. Marcus emerged from the tree line with 5 men at his back, all armed with crossbows. They positioned themselves along the road, clearly expecting the Duke's carriage to pass through. Lucien raised his hand. His men moved into position, silent, encircling. "Now," Lucien said quietly. Torches flared. Soldiers stepped out from concealment. Marcus spun, face going white. "Drop your weapons," Thorn commanded. "You're surrounded." For a moment no one moved. Then Marcus's eyes found Alara, standing beside Lucien. The betrayal in his expression cut like glass. "You," he breathed. "You told him." "I tried to stop you," Alara said, voice breaking. "I begged you to walk away. You sold me out to the man who destroyed our family. You were going to kill him. He deserves to die." Marcus's shout echoed through the trees. "He took everything from us." "Father took everything from us," Alara shot back. "By being greedy and stupid and thinking he could steal from a duke without consequences. And you defend him?" Marcus's laugh was wild. "You've become his lapdog that quickly? I've become someone who sees the difference between justice and murder." Marcus's hand moved toward his crossbow. 20 weapons trained on him instantly. "Don't," Lucien said, voice deadly calm. "Whatever you think you're accomplishing, it ends here." "Does it?" Marcus's smile was bitter. "Because I don't think it does." He raised his crossbow, aimed it not at Lucien, but at Alara. Time fractured into crystalline shards. She saw Lucien move, saw him step in front of her, saw the bolt release. The impact spun him sideways. He went down hard. Chaos erupted. Soldiers surged forward. Marcus's men scattered. Someone was shouting orders. But Alara saw only Lucien, crumpled on the ground, blood spreading across his shoulder. She dropped to her knees beside him. "Stay with me," she said, hands pressed against the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. "Stay with me. Stay with me." His eyes found hers, glazed with pain. "Your brother?" "Forget my brother. You're hurt." "Thorn!" Lucien called, voice strained. "Did we get him?" "We got him, sir." Thorn appeared, grim. "All of them." "Good." Lucien tried to sit up, hissed in pain. "That's good." "Don't move," Alara snapped. "You've been shot, you stubborn." "It's a shoulder wound. I'll live." But he stayed down, breathing hard. Around them, soldiers were binding Marcus and his men. Her brother wasn't fighting anymore. He stared at Alara with eyes full of hate so pure it took her breath away. "I'll never forgive you for this," he said. "I know," she whispered, "but you're alive. That's more than you deserve." Medics arrived, carefully lifting Lucien onto a stretcher. Before they carried him away, his hand found hers. "You made the right choice," he said quietly. "Did I?" She looked at Marcus, bound and broken. "Because it doesn't feel right." "It never does," Lucien said. "That's how you know it mattered." Then they were taking him away, and Alara was left standing in the cold dawn, blood on her hands, her brother's hatred burning into her back. She'd chosen loyalty over blood, truth over family, and she had no idea if she'd ever be able to live with it. The physician's hands were steady as he cleaned the wound, but Alara's shook as she stood in the corner of Lucian's chambers, watching. Blood stained the linens, the Duke's face pale beneath the sheen of sweat. The bolt went clean through, the physician said, not unkindly. Missed the bone, missed the major vessels. Your Grace was fortunate. Fortunate, Lucien repeated through gritted teeth. Is that what we're calling it? You're alive, sir. I'd say that qualifies. Alara pressed her back against the wall, trying to make herself small, invisible. She didn't belong here, in this private space, watching a duke be stitched back together. But when she tried to leave, Lucien had stopped her with a single word. Stay. So she stayed. The physician finished, wrapping clean bandages around Lucien's shoulder. No heavy lifting for at least 2 weeks, light activity only, and if you develop a fever, I know the protocol, Lucien said. Thank you, Brennan. The physician gathered his supplies and left. Silence filled the room like water. You should sit, Lucien said finally, gesturing to a chair with his good arm. You look ready to collapse. I'm fine. You have blood on your dress, and you haven't stopped shaking since we got back. Sit. She sat. Lucien studied her, those gray eyes sharp despite the pain he had to be in. Your brother is in the holding cells. He'll be tried within the week. The words landed like stones in her chest. I know. The evidence is clear. Attempted assassination of a sitting duke. The sentence is death. I know, she said again, voice hollow. Unless. Her head snapped up. Unless what? Lucien shifted, wincing. Unless he provides information about who else is involved, who funded this attempt, who gave him the resources. Marcus works alone. He's too proud to accept help. Someone gave him those crossbows. Someone told him about the trade summit schedule. Lucien's expression was hard. Someone wanted me dead badly enough to use your brother as a weapon. The implication hit her like ice water. You think this is bigger than Marcus? I know it is. Your brother is reckless, angry, desperate, but he's not stupid enough to think 6 men could take down a duke's procession without inside help. Alara's mind raced. Then who? That's what I need to find out, and that's where you come in. Me? You're his sister, the only family he has left. Lucien leaned forward, intensity radiating from him despite his injury. If anyone can get him to talk, it's you. The request was impossible, insane. He hates me, Alara said flatly. Didn't you see his face? He'd rather die than help me. Then we let him think he's helping himself. Lucien's voice dropped. We offer him a deal, information for clemency, a prison sentence instead of execution. And you think he'll take it? I think he'll at least listen if it comes from you. Alara stood, pacing to the window. Outside, the estate grounds spread in manicured perfection. So orderly, so controlled, nothing like the chaos churning inside her. What if he doesn't know anything? She asked. What if he really was working alone? Then he hangs, Lucien said simply. But I don't believe that. And neither do you. She turned back to face him. Why are you doing this? Why not just execute him and be done with it? Because whoever is behind this won't stop. They'll find another Marcus, another desperate fool willing to die for their cause. His eyes held hers. I want the head of the snake, not just its fangs. The logic was sound. It was also terrifying. When? She asked. Tomorrow, after he's had a night in the cells to think about his options. Lucien stood slowly, careful of his shoulder. I'll arrange it. But Alara, if he tells you anything at all, you report it to me immediately. No exceptions. I understand. Do you? He moved closer, and she caught the scent of blood and bandages and something underneath, sandalwood, leather, him. Because he's going to try to manipulate you, to make you doubt, to make you think loyalty to blood matters more than truth. It doesn't, she said firmly. Not anymore. Good. His hand came up, not quite touching her cheek. Because I need to trust you completely for this to work. And trust doesn't come easily to me. Or me. Something passed between them. Acknowledgement, maybe. Understanding. Then Captain Thorne knocked, entering without waiting for permission. The prisoners are secured, he reported. Marcus Vance has been asking for his sister. Already? Lucien's eyebrows rose. That was faster than expected. He's been screaming for her since we locked him up, Thorne said dryly. Quite insistent. Alara's stomach twisted. What does he want? To talk, apparently, though I'd wager it's more to blame than to bargain. Let him stew until morning, Lucy Yen decided. Desperation makes people more reasonable. But sleep proved impossible for Alara that night. She lay in her small bed, staring at shadows on the ceiling, imagining Marcus in a cold cell below. Angry, betrayed, plotting. Around midnight, she gave up and wrapped herself in a shawl, wandering the quiet corridors. She found Lady Iris in the library, curled in a chair with a book. Can't sleep either? The girl asked, looking up with sympathetic eyes. Too much on my mind. I heard what happened, about your brother. Iris set down her book. I'm sorry, Alara. That must be awful. It is. The simple acknowledgement made something crack in her chest. I keep thinking there must have been something I could have done differently, some way to reach him before it came to this. But he made his choices, Iris said gently. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. When did you get so wise? I read a lot, a small smile, and I watched my parents try to help people who didn't want help. Sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes people choose their own destruction. The words settled over Alara like a shroud. They sat in silence for a while, the only sound the crackling fire and turning pages. Can I ask you something? Iris said finally. Of course. Do you hate Lucien for what happened to your family? The question was so direct, so unexpected that Alara actually laughed. No, I did once, or I thought I did, but she struggled for words. Your cousin did what any duke would do, what the law required. My father broke trust, broke laws. The consequences were just. Marcus doesn't see it that way. Marcus doesn't want to see it that way. The truth would mean admitting our father was wrong, that we deserved what happened. Alara pulled the shawl tighter. It's easier to blame someone else. Lucien worries about you, you know. Alara's head snapped up. What? He doesn't say it, but I see how he looks at you, like you're a puzzle he can't quite solve. Iris's smile was knowing, and Lucien does love his puzzles. Heat flooded Alara's cheeks. I'm his employee, nothing more. If you say so. I do say so. But Iris's words stayed with her as she returned to her room, as dawn crept through her window, as Mrs. Hartwell knocked to say the Duke was ready. The holding cells were beneath the main house, accessible through a narrow stone staircase that seemed to descend into the earth's cold heart. Captain Thorne led the way, torch in hand. 5 minutes, he said as they stopped before a heavy door. And I'll be right outside. Thank you. Marcus sat on a wooden bench, still in yesterday's clothes, dried blood on his hands. He looked up as she entered, and the hatred in his eyes made her want to retreat. But she stood her ground. Hello, Marcus. Come to gloat? His voice was raw. Come to see what your betrayal earned? I came because you asked for me. I wanted to see if you'd have the courage to face me. He stood, chains clinking. Looks like you found it. Good for you. This doesn't have to end in execution, Alara said quietly. The Duke is willing to make a deal, information for clemency. Marcus laughed, sharp, bitter. Information. Of course. He wants names. He wants the truth. Who helped you? Who gave you the weapons, the intelligence? Why would I tell you that? Because the alternative is death. She stepped closer. Marcus, please. I know you hate me right now, but I'm trying to save your life. By turning me into an informant, by making me betray the people who actually stood by me, he shook his head. You really are his creature now. I'm trying to be reasonable. Reasonable! The shout echoed off stone walls. You call condemning your own blood reasonable? I call stopping you from committing murder reasonable, Alara shot back. You were going to kill him, Marcus. Kill him and probably get yourself killed in the process. What was I supposed to do? Stand with your family. You stopped being my family the moment you pointed a crossbow at an innocent man. Silence crashed between them. Marcus's expression twisted into something ugly. Innocent. You think he's innocent. In this? Yes. Then you don't know everything, do you? He moved closer, chains rattling. You think Father just decided to steal from the Duke one day? That it was greed, stupidity? Unease prickled down Alara's spine. What are you talking about? Father was set up, encouraged. The ledgers, the embezzling. Someone pushed him toward it, made it easy, then made sure Drax found out. That's insane, is it? Marcus's smile was cold. Think about it, Alara. Who benefits from the Vance family being destroyed? Who gains when a rival house falls? Rival house? We weren't rivals. We were barely gentry. We had influence, connections, trade agreements that certain other families wanted. He leaned close enough that she could smell sweat and desperation. Father didn't steal from Drax. He was tricked into it, and when he figured out the truth, he died before he could prove it. Died in prison of illness. Died of poison, Marcus hissed. I saw the body, Alara. I saw what it did to him. The floor seemed to tilt beneath her feet. You're lying. Am I? Or am I finally telling you what you've been too scared to see? His eyes blazed. The Duke didn't just enforce the law, he was part of the trap. Maybe not directly, but someone close to him, someone who wanted us gone. Who? The word came out strangled. That's what I was trying to find out. Marcus pulled back. That's what this was all about. Not revenge. Justice. By killing him? By exposing him, making him admit what was done. His jaw clenched. The assassination attempt was meant to draw out his co-conspirators, force them to act, to reveal themselves. Alara's mind reeled. That's the stupidest plan I've ever heard. It would have worked. You would have died. I was willing to die if it meant the truth came out. He grabbed the bars between them. But you ruined it. You chose him over the only family you have left. I chose what was right. You chose what was easy. His voice cracked. You chose safety over truth, comfort over justice. I chose not to watch you commit suicide, Alara shouted. Because that's what it was, Marcus, a death wish dressed up as a plan. Silence fell, heavy and thick. Marcus sagged against the bars. Just go. Tell your Duke I have nothing to say. Marcus, go! Thorne appeared in the doorway. Time's up, Miss Vance. She left, Marcus's words echoing in her skull. Poison, conspiracy, setup. It was madness. It had to be. But as she climbed the stairs back into daylight, one thought kept circling. What if he was right? Lucian was in his study, reviewing papers one-handed. He looked up as she entered. Well? Alara sank into a chair, her legs suddenly weak. He says Father was set up, that someone close to you engineered the embezzlement to destroy our family. Lucian's expression didn't change. That's a serious accusation. He says Father was poisoned in prison, that it wasn't illness. Do you believe him? The question hung between them. I don't know, Alara admitted. He could be lying, trying to manipulate me. Or he could be telling the truth and I've been blind to it. Prison records would show if your father died of anything suspicious, Lucian said. I can have them pulled. And if they confirm what Marcus said, then we have a problem. He set down his papers. Someone in my household, someone with access and influence, would have had to arrange it. That's not a small conspiracy. Who would benefit? That's what we need to find out. Lucien stood, moving to a cabinet and pulling out a thick ledger. These are the records from your father's trial. Every piece of evidence, every witness statement. He spread them across the desk, and Alara moved closer. For the next 2 hours, they read. The evidence was damning. Forged signatures on withdrawal orders, money transferred to accounts under false names, trade agreements manipulated to benefit the Vance family at the duchy's expense. But reading it with fresh eyes, looking for patterns rather than guilt, Alara began to see something else. The timing, she said, finger tracing dates. All of this happened within a 6-month period. Before that, Father's accounts were clean. People can change quickly when they see opportunity. Or when someone presents them with opportunity. She pulled out another page. Look at this. The first withdrawal was approved by someone in your treasury, someone who gave Father access he shouldn't have had. Lucian leaned over her shoulder, studying the signature. That's That's Thomas Ashford's seal. Lord Ashford, the man who was talking to you at the masked summit? His son, actually. Thomas handles my financial affairs. Lucian's face had gone hard. Or he did. He died 8 months ago. Riding accident. The pieces began to click together in Alara's mind. How convenient, she said slowly. The man who could testify about giving my father access dies before anyone thinks to question him. You're suggesting Thomas was murdered too. I'm suggesting this goes deeper than anyone realized. She turned to face him. If Marcus is right, if father was set up, then someone has been playing a very long game, destroying the Vance family, eliminating witnesses, covering tracks. But why? Lucian's frustration bled through. What's the end game? The door burst open. Captain Thorne stood there, face grim, holding a piece of parchment. We have a problem, he said. I just received word from the prison. Marcus Vance is dead. The world stopped. What? Alar's voice came from somewhere far away. Hanged himself with his shirt, apparently. Guards found him an hour ago. That's impossible, she breathed. I just saw him. He was angry, not suicidal. I'm sorry, Miss Vance. Thorne's expression was genuinely sympathetic. I know this is... No. She stood, clarity cutting through shock. No, he didn't kill himself. He was murdered. Lucian and Thorne exchanged glances. Alara, Lucian said carefully, grief can make us see things. I'm not grieving, I'm thinking. She grabbed the trial records, holding them up. Don't you see? Marcus was about to talk. He knew things, had information about who really destroyed my family, and now he's conveniently dead before he can share it. The cells are guarded. By men loyal to whom? The duchy or someone in the duchy? Her mind raced. Someone who has access, who can move freely, who knew Marcus was a threat. Lucien's expression shifted from sympathy to calculation. If you're right, I am right, and whoever killed Marcus isn't done. Alara met his eyes. Because I'm still alive, and I know too much now. The implication settled over the room like frost. Thorne, Lucian said quietly, increase security on Miss Vance immediately. No one gets near her without my express permission. Already done, sir. But Thorne looked troubled. Though if the threat is internal, then we root it out. Lucian's voice had gone cold. Starting now, I want every guard who had access to those cells questioned. Every servant who brought food or water, everyone. That'll be dozens of people. I don't care if it's hundreds. Someone murdered a prisoner in my custody. That doesn't happen without inside help. As Thorne left to begin the investigation, Alara sank back into her chair, the full weight of it crashing over her. Marcus was dead. Her brother, the last of her blood family, was gone, and she'd been arguing with him hours before, calling his claims madness. I should have listened, she whispered. I should have believed him. You couldn't have known. I could have. Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. He was trying to warn me, to tell me the truth, and I treated him like he was crazy. Lucian moved around the desk, kneeling beside her chair. Alara, listen to me. If your brother was right, if there is a conspiracy, then the best thing you can do for him now is help me uncover it. Help me bring whoever did this to justice. Justice. The word tasted like ash. What does that even mean anymore? It means we don't let them win. His hand found hers. It means we finish what Marcus started. She looked at him, this Duke who'd destroyed her family, or had he? Now she didn't know what to believe. I need to see him, she said. The body. I need to see Marcus. That's not a good idea. It's I don't care if it's a good idea. I need to see him. Her voice broke. Please. Something in her expression must have convinced him, because he nodded. All right, but I'm coming with you. The prison physician's examination room smelled of death and disinfectant. Marcus lay on a stone slab, covered by a sheet. Alara approached slowly, each step feeling like wading through deep water. The physician pulled back the sheet. Marcus's face was peaceful, almost serene. The ligature marks on his neck were dark, brutal. But it was his hands that caught her attention. They were clenched, fighting. He struggled, she said flatly. The physician frowned. Suicide victims often... He fought. She pointed to the defensive wounds on his palms, the torn fingernails. Look, those aren't from hanging yourself. Those are from fighting off an attacker. Lucian leaned closer, examining. She's right. And look here. He indicated Marcus's knuckles. Fresh bruises. He hit someone. Or something, the physician offered weakly. No. Alar's voice was stone. Someone killed my brother and made it look like suicide. And whoever it was, Marcus fought back. A sound made them all turn. Lady Vivian Hale stood in the doorway, face pale. I heard there was an incident. I came to offer condolences. Her eyes flickered to Marcus's body. How terrible. Suicide is such a tragedy. Is it? Alara asked coldly. How did you know it was suicide, Lady Vivian? We haven't announced cause of death yet. Color drained further from Vivian's face. I assumed. A prisoner, dying suddenly. Assumptions are dangerous, Luciana said, moving to block her exit, especially when they're so specific. I don't know what you're implying. I'm implying, Alara said, walking toward her, that you knew he was dead awfully quickly, almost like you were expecting it. This is ridiculous. I was in the gardens all morning. You can ask... Ask who? Lucian's voice was soft, deadly. Ask Lord Ashford, your father's closest friend? The man whose son gave my father access to accounts he shouldn't have had. Vivian's mask cracked. You can't prove anything. Can't I? Alara gestured to Marcus's body. He fought his killer, which means there will be marks, bruises, scratches. On a guard, probably. Someone he attacked. Show us your hands, Lucian commanded. I beg your pardon? Your hands, Lady Vivian. Show them to us. For a moment she didn't move. Then slowly she extended her hands. Fresh scratches marked her left wrist. A bruise darkened her right palm. I fell in the gardens, she said quickly. The rose bushes are on the east side of the estate, Lucian finished, nowhere near the holding cells. Silence stretched like a wire about to snap. Then Vivian laughed. High, brittle. You think I killed him? Personally? Me? I think you were involved, Alara said. I think you're part of whatever destroyed my family. And I think Marcus figured it out. Proof, Vivian hissed. You need proof, and you have none. Just a dead traitor and wild accusations. Then you won't mind, Lucian said, if we search your chambers. Fear flickered across her face. You wouldn't dare. I'm a duke, in my own house. I'll dare whatever I please. He moved toward her, and she backed away. You'll regret this, she said. My father is finished, Lucian interrupted. Whatever game he's been playing, whatever conspiracy he's woven, it ends today. Vivian's composure shattered. You don't understand what you're interfering with, the forces at play, the people involved. Then help me understand. His voice was almost gentle. Tell me who else is part of this. Give me names. For a heartbeat, Alara thought she might. Then Vivian's hand moved to her necklace, a quick, decisive motion. No! The physician shouted. But it was too late. Vivian bit down on something, her face contorting. Poison. She collapsed, convulsing. Lucian lunged forward, but there was nothing to be done. In 30 seconds, it was over. Lady Vivian Hale lay dead on the floor, secrets dying with her. Damn it! Lucian slammed his good fist against the wall. Damn it all to hell! Alara stared at the bodies. Marcus and Vivian, both dead within hours. She was going to talk, she said numbly. You almost had her. Almost isn't enough. He turned to the physician. Search her. Every pocket, every piece of jewelry. Anything that might tell us who else is involved. As the physician moved to comply, Captain Thorne burst in. Your Grace, we have a situation. What now? Lord Ashford has barricaded himself in the North Tower with 12 armed men. He's demanding safe passage out of the duchy or he'll start executing hostages. Lucian's face went white. Hostages? He has Lady Iris. The world tilted. Alara grabbed Lucian's arm as he swayed. How? She was in the library. He must have taken her hours ago, Thorne said grimly. We didn't realize she was missing until we started rounding up suspects. How many men does he have? Lucian's voice was steady, despite the fear in his eyes. At least 12. Maybe more. The tower's defensible. Narrow stairs, thick walls. A direct assault would be suicide. Then we negotiate. He's not interested in negotiating. He wants out. Now. Lucian turned to Alara, and in his eyes she saw the calculation, the terrible math of power. I need your help, he said quietly. Anything. Ashford knew your father, trusted him, before the disgrace. He might listen to you, or he might kill me on sight. It's a risk. His hand found hers. But it's the only play we have. If we storm the tower, people die. If we let him leave, he disappears and we never learn the truth. And if I go in there and he kills me anyway? Then I bring the tower down around him, Lucian said flatly. With him inside it. The choice crystallized in front of her, sharp and clear. She could walk away. Let Lucian handle this, save herself. Or she could walk into the lion's den one more time, for Iris, for the truth, for Marcus's memory. Tell me what you need me to do, Alara said. Lucian's expression flooded with something that looked like relief and fear. Talk to him. Buy us time. Make him think we're considering his terms. He gripped her shoulders. And Alara, if it goes wrong, if he threatens you, you run. You don't play hero, you run. Understood? Understood. But as Thorne led her toward the North Tower, as she climbed the narrow stairs toward the barricaded door, Alara knew running wasn't an option. Not anymore. She knocked on the heavy oak door. Lord Ashford, it's Alara Vance. I want to talk. Silence. Then, send her in, alone, and unarmed. The door opened a crack. Alara stepped through into the lion's den and came face to face with the man who'd destroyed everything. Lord Ashford stood at the far end of the tower room, gray-haired and dignified even in desperation. A dozen armed men ringed the space, crossbows trained on the stairs. And in the center, tied to a chair but defiant, sat Lady Iris. Relief flooded through Alara at seeing the girl unharmed. Miss Vance, Ashford said, voice cultured and calm. How unexpected. I thought the Duke would send soldiers, not survivors of my handiwork. Your handiwork? Alara stepped fully into the room, hands visible and empty. So you admit it. You destroyed my family. I orchestrated their downfall, yes, though destroyed is rather dramatic. He gestured vaguely. Your father made himself quite useful as a pawn, greedy enough to be tempted, stupid enough to be caught. The casual cruelty of it stole her breath. Why? The question came out raw. We were nothing to you, no threat, no competition? Ah, but you were. Ashford moved to a window, gazing out at the estate grounds below. Your father controlled 3 critical trade routes through the northern valleys. Routes my associates needed. He wouldn't sell, wouldn't negotiate. So we found another way. By framing him for embezzlement. By giving him the rope and watching him hang himself. Ashford's smile was thin. Thomas, my late son, provided the access. Made it easy. Your father did the rest. And when father figured out the truth, he had to be silenced. No remorse colored his tone. The poison was quick, merciful even. Rage burned hot in Alara's chest, but she forced it down. Anger wouldn't save Iris. And my brother? Was killing him merciful too? Your brother was a loose end. He'd pieced together too much, asked too many dangerous questions. Ashford turned back to face her. Lady Vivian handled that. Rather efficiently, I thought. Until the girl cracked under pressure. She killed herself rather than betray you. Loyalty, Ashford said, is such a valuable commodity. Is that why you're holding a 17-year-old girl hostage? Alara gestured to Iris. Because of loyalty? I'm holding insurance, he corrected. The Duke values his ward. He'll give me safe passage to avoid watching her die. Iris lifted her chin, eyes blazing. Lucian won't negotiate with you. He'll storm this tower before he lets you escape. Then you'll be caught in the crossfire, my dear. Tragic, but acceptable losses. Ashford's expression hardened. Now, Miss Vance, unless you're here to deliver terms, I suggest you leave before my men lose patience. Alara's mind raced, calculating angles, weighing options. Then she saw it, the pieces falling into place with crystalline clarity. I'm not here to deliver terms, she said slowly. I'm here to deliver the truth. The truth? Ashford laughed. What truth could you possibly— The truth that you've already lost. She turned to address the armed men. How much is Lord Ashford paying you? To betray your duke? To hold an innocent girl hostage? The guard shifted uncomfortably. Silence, Ashford snapped. Don't listen to her. Because I'm guessing it's not much, Alara continued, voice carrying. Men like Ashford don't share wealth. They use people and discard them, like he used my father, like he used Lady Vivian. I said silence. Tell me, Alara addressed a guard directly, what happens when you try to leave? You think the Duke will just let you walk away? You'll be hunted, executed, your family's ruined. Fear flickered across several faces. But if you stand down now, she pressed, if you testify against the man who dragged you into this, you might survive. The Duke is many things, but he's not unreasonable with men who cooperate. Don't believe her lies, Ashford said, but uncertainty crept into his voice. They're not lies. They're the same choice I had. Alara met each guard's eyes in turn. Loyalty to someone who'll destroy you, or truth that might save you. I chose truth, and I'm still standing. A guard lowered his crossbow. Raise that weapon, Ashford commanded. The guard didn't. She's right, he said quietly. We're dead men if we run, but maybe not if we cooperate. Traitor, Ashford hissed. No, just tired of following a losing cause. 3 more crossbows lowered. Then 5. Ashford's face twisted with fury. You fools! You'll hang regardless! Actually, a new voice said from the stairwell, they won't. Lucian stepped into the room, Thorn and a dozen soldiers behind him, but his hands were raised, peaceful. Any man who lays down arms now walks free, the Duke said. You have my word. The remaining guards looked at each other, then at Ashford, then set down their weapons. In 30 seconds, it was over. Ashford stood alone, surrounded, his carefully constructed conspiracy crumbling around him. You were never going to get out, Lucian said quietly. Not with Iris. Not with anything. This was always going to end one way. Then why the charade? Ashford demanded. Why send the girl to talk? Because I needed confirmation, Lucian replied. Needed you to confess, and apparently needed to watch Miss Vance dismantle your forces with nothing but words. Something like admiration crossed his face. Impressive, really. Alara moved to Iris, cutting her bonds with a knife borrowed from a guard. The girl threw her arms around her. I knew you'd come. I knew it. Are you hurt? Just scared and angry. Iris pulled back, glaring at Ashford. How could you? You've been to our house, eaten at our table. Business, Ashford said coldly. Nothing personal. It was personal to us. Lucian's voice had gone deadly quiet. You murdered a man in my custody, orchestrated a conspiracy that destroyed an innocent family, used my trust to undermine my duchy. Innocent? Ashford laughed. The Vances were pawns, weak, disposable. They were people. Alara's voice cut through. My father made mistakes, but he didn't deserve what you did to him. My brother was angry and lost, but he didn't deserve to be murdered. Your brother was a fool chasing ghosts. He was chasing the truth, she interrupted, and he found it. Found you. That's why you killed him. Ashford's expression flickered, just for a moment. Regret? Fear? Then it hardened again. Prove it. You have confessions from a dead woman and a desperate girl. No real evidence. Don't I? Lucian produced a folded document. While we were talking, my men searched your chambers, found quite the collection of correspondence, letters detailing the conspiracy, payments to Thomas, orders for poison. The color drained from Ashford's face. Those are private. Those are evidence, Lucian corrected. More than enough to hang you and anyone else involved. There are others, Ashford said quickly. Powerful men. If you move against me, then name them. The Duke's eyes were cold. Give me every name, every detail. Cooperate fully. And maybe, I commute your sentence to life in prison instead of execution. Silence stretched like a blade. Ashford looked around the room, at the guards who'd abandoned him, at Iris glaring with teenage fury, at Alara standing tall despite everything he'd taken from her, at Lucian, implacable and certain. You want names? Ashford's voice cracked. Fine. I'll give you names. But know this, Duke Drax, this goes deeper than you imagine. Men in your own council, in the treasury, in positions of trust. By the time I'm finished talking, half your household will be implicated. Then we'll clean house, Lucian said simply. Captain Thorne, take him to a secure cell, maximum guard. I want him alive and talking by morning. As guards moved to restrain Ashford, the old lord looked at Alara. You think you've won, he said, but all you've done is paint a target on your back. The men I'll name, they have reach, resources. They won't let this stand. Let them come, Alara said steadily. I've survived your conspiracy this long. I'll survive whatever comes next. Thorne led Ashford away, and suddenly the room felt lighter, breathable. Iris sagged against Alara. I was so scared. When they grabbed me in the library, when they brought me here, I thought, I know, Alara stroked her hair, but you're safe now. Because of you. You walked in here unarmed and faced him down. Iris pulled back, eyes shining. That was the bravest thing I've ever seen. It was the only thing I could think of. Alara glanced at Lucian, and I had backup. The Duke moved closer, and she saw the tension in his shoulders, the careful control he kept over every movement. You took a terrible risk, he said quietly. So did you. Coming up here, offering terms to the guards. I knew you'd find a way. You always do. His hand came up, fingertips brushing her cheek. But watching you walk into danger, twice now, it's becoming a habit I'd like to break. Heat flooded her face. I'm not that reckless. You walked into a masked ball to warn a man who'd destroyed your family. You went alone to meet your brother in a tavern. You just talked down a dozen armed men. His smile was soft. Alara, you're the definition of reckless. Then what does that make you? The Duke who keeps trusting me despite everything? Probably just as reckless. His thumb traced along her jawline. Or possibly out of my mind. Your Grace? Thorne called from the doorway, carefully not looking at them. We should secure the tower, and Miss Iris needs the physician to check her over. Of course, Lucian stepped back, professional distance sliding into place. See to it, Captain, and have Mrs. Hartwell prepare rooms. I suspect none of us will sleep much tonight. Over the next hours, Drax Hall transformed into organized chaos. Guards secured the estate. Servants were questioned. Ashford's accomplices, 3 members of the Treasury, 2 advisors, and a handful of lesser nobles, were arrested as the Lord began naming names. Alara sat in Lucian's study, watching documents pile up, watching the conspiracy unravel thread by thread. It's massive, Thorne said, reviewing papers. The network he built, the people he corrupted. This goes back years. How many people knew about my family? Alara asked. Most of them, it seems. The embezzlement plot, the trial, even your father's death, at least a dozen people were aware. Some actively participated. Others just looked the other way. The betrayal cut deep, but Alara found she couldn't muster surprise. Power protected power. Always had. What happens to them? She asked Lucien. Trials. Public ones. His expression was grim. I won't let this be swept away quietly. The duchy needs to see that corruption has consequences, regardless of rank. And the Vance name? Lucien looked up, meeting her eyes. Will be cleared, publicly. I'll issue a formal statement acknowledging the conspiracy, your father's manipulation, the miscarriage of justice. Something hot and tight in Alara's chest loosened slightly. Thank you. Don't thank me. It's just truth. What you've been fighting for this whole time. He stood, wincing slightly as his wounded shoulder protested. Your brother was right, Alara. About the conspiracy, about the setup, he deserved to be heard. He deserved to live, she said quietly. Yes, he did. and the people responsible will answer for it. Dawn was breaking when the initial questioning finally ended. Iris had been checked by the physician and put to bed with warm tea and Mrs. Hartwell standing guard. Thorne was coordinating the expanded investigation, and Alara found herself standing in the estate gardens, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of gold and rose. She heard footsteps behind her. "Can't sleep?" Lucian asked, joining her at the stone railing. "Too much in my head." "I understand that feeling." He was quiet for a moment. "I owe you an apology." "For what?" "For not seeing the conspiracy sooner, for letting your father's case close without deeper investigation." His jaw tightened. "For the injustice done to your family in my name." "You didn't know. I should have." "That's the responsibility of power. To look deeper, to question, to ensure justice is actually served." He turned to face her. "Your family lost everything because I failed in that responsibility. My father made choices that were engineered by people I trusted, people in my household." The frustration bled through his control. How many others, I wonder? How many people have suffered because I was blind to corruption in my own walls? Alara saw the weight of it settling on him, the guilt, the self-recrimination. "You're one man," she said gently. "You can't see everything, know everything. That's what the conspiracy counted on, that you'd trust your advisors, your systems. Trust nearly got you killed, got Iris kidnapped. And questioning everything will drive you mad." She touched his arm. "You can't undo what happened, but you can make sure it doesn't happen again." "How?" "By building something better, by choosing people who care about truth over people who care about advancement." She smiled slightly. "By listening to women who walk into masked balls with warnings." That earned a ghost of a smile. "Fair point." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the day fully arrive. "What will you do now?" Lucian asked. "When this is settled, when the trials are over?" The question hung between them, weighted with possibility. "I don't know," Alara admitted. "I haven't thought that far ahead." "You could stay, here." He spoke carefully, not looking at her. "The position with Iris is real. She adores you. And He stopped, cleared his throat. "I value your counsel, your perspective." "You value having someone who'll argue with you," she corrected. "That too." Now he did look at her, and something in his expression made her breath catch. "Stay, Alara, not because you owe me, not because you need protection. Stay because you want to." Her heart hammered against her ribs. She'd spent weeks fighting to survive, to uncover truth, to navigate a world that wanted her erased. The idea of choosing something for herself, choosing to stay, to build something instead of just surviving, felt foreign and terrifying and wonderful. "I'll think about it," she said. "That's all I ask." But the way he smiled suggested he already knew her answer. 3 days later, the duchy gathered in the Great Hall for the formal proceedings. Nobles filled the galleries, commoners crowded the standing areas. Word had spread about the conspiracy, about the arrests, about the disgraced Vance family's vindication. Alara stood at the front, beside Lady Iris, wearing a gown Mrs. Hartwell had insisted she accept, deep green silk that made her feel like someone else, someone important. Lucian stood at the judge's bench, ducal authority radiating from every line of his bearing. "We are gathered," he began, voice carrying, "to address crimes committed against this duchy and against an innocent family. Crimes that reached the highest levels of my household and demanded the most severe response." Lord Ashford was led in, bound and stripped of all rank markers. Behind him came the Treasury officials, the advisors, all the conspirators named in his confession. The hall went silent. "Lord Ashford," Lucian Iana said, "you have confessed to conspiracy, murder, and treason against the duchy. How do you plead to these formal charges?" Ashford lifted his chin. "Guilty, Your Grace. To all charges." "And your co-conspirators?" One by one, they pled guilty. The smart ones, Alara knew, hoped cooperation would buy mercy. The foolish ones still believed their connections would save them. "Before sentencing," Lucian continued, "I want to address the matter of the Vance family." He gestured for Alara to step forward. She did, legs shaking slightly, aware of hundreds of eyes on her. 6 years ago," Lucian said, Lord Vance was tried and convicted of embezzlement. His family was stripped of title, property, and standing. The evidence seemed clear, the verdict just. He paused, letting the words settle. It was not just. It was manufactured. Lord Vance was manipulated, set up by men who wanted his trade routes and were willing to destroy an entire family to get them. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The evidence has been reviewed, the conspiracy exposed, and I hereby issue a formal pardon for Lord Vance, posthumously clearing his name and acknowledging the injustice done. Alara's vision blurred with tears. Furthermore, Lucian continued, the Vance family properties, seized at the time of conviction, are hereby restored. All titles, lands, and accounts are returned to the surviving heir, Miss Alara Vance. The world tilted. What? She breathed. Lucienne looked at her, expression soft. Your family's honor is restored. Your inheritance returned. It's not everything you lost, but it's a start. I can't. You can. And you will. He addressed the crowd again. Let it be known that the duchy protects the innocent and punishes the corrupt, regardless of rank. Justice delayed is still justice served. The hall erupted in applause. Some genuine, some obligatory, all deafening. Alara stood frozen, trying to process the sudden reversal of fortune. She wasn't penniless anymore. Wasn't disgraced. She was a lady again, with property, with standing, with choices. The sentencing proceeded quickly after that. Ashford and his primary co-conspirators were condemned to execution. The lesser participants received prison sentences of varying lengths. Justice, as promised, was served. As the crowd dispersed, Iris grabbed Alara's hand. You did it, the girl said, eyes shining. You got your family back. Not my family, Alara corrected gently. Just the name. The people are gone. Then you'll build a new family, here. Iris squeezed her hand. With us. Is that an offer or a command, my lady? Both, Iris grinned. I'm getting quite good at those ducal pronouncements. I learned from Lucienne. Speaking of whom, Alara looked around. Where did he go? Probably his study. He always retreats there after big events. Iris leaned in conspiratorially. You should go to him. He'll pretend he's fine, but he's not. This whole thing, executing people he trusted, it's eating at him. He has advisors for that. He has you, Iris interrupted. And you're better than advisors. You understand what it's like to lose everything and have to rebuild. The girl had a point. Alara found Lucian exactly where Iris predicted. In his study, staring out the window at the estate grounds, a glass of untouched brandy in his hand. Hiding? She asked from the doorway. He turned, managed a tired smile. Regrouping. Iris said you'd be brooding. Iris talks too much, but there was fondness in his tone. Come in. Close the door. She did, moving to stand beside him at the window. It's done, she said. The conspiracy exposed. Justice served. You should feel triumphant. Should I? He set down the glass. I just condemned a dozen men. Some of them I've known for years. And for what? Because I was blind to corruption under my own roof? You weren't blind. You were betrayed. There's a difference. Is there? The question was raw. A good ruler should see these things, should know when his people are lying, scheming. A good ruler, Alara said firmly, trusts until given reason not to. You created systems, checked balances. Ashford exploited those systems brilliantly. That doesn't make you blind. It makes him a skilled manipulator. Lucian looked at her, really looked, and something in his expression cracked. You should hate me, he said quietly. After everything, your father's trial, your family's ruin, even if it wasn't my direct fault, you should want nothing to do with me. Maybe I should, she agreed. But I don't. Why not? Because you listened when I warned you, believed me when you had no reason to, protected me when it would have been easier to throw me out. She stepped closer. Because when you learned the truth about my family, you didn't make excuses. You fixed it. I can't give you back your father or your brother. No, but you gave me back my name, my honor, my future. Her hand found his. That's more than I dared hope for. His fingers intertwined with hers, warm and solid. "Stay," he said again. "Not as an employee, not as a ward. Stay as—" He stopped, struggling for words. "As what?" "As someone I can't imagine this place without." The admission seemed to cost him something. "As someone who makes me want to be the leader I pretend to be." Heat flooded through her. "That's a lot of pressure." "You've handled worse." "Fair point." She smiled. "But if I stay, I'm not going to make it easy on you. I'll argue. Question. Push back." "I'm counting on it." His free hand came up, cupping her face. "I don't want easy, Alara. I want real. And you're the most real thing in this entire duchy." The kiss was inevitable, slow and careful, and full of everything they couldn't say. When they finally pulled apart, Alara's heart was racing. "So," she said, slightly breathless, "I'm staying." "Good." His smile was genuine now, transforming his whole face. "Because I wasn't sure what I'd do if you said no." "Probably brewed dramatically in your study." "Probably." He kissed her again, quick and light. "But now I don't have to." A knock at the door made them spring apart like guilty children. Thorne entered, carefully not noticing their flushed faces. "Final count, Your Grace. 15 conspirators arrested, 12 confessions, enough evidence to fill 3 archives." He set down a thick folder. "It'll take months to process it all." "Then we'd better get started," Lucian said. "Tomorrow. Tonight I think we've earned rest." "Agreed." Thorne turned to leave, then paused. "For what it's worth, sir, you did the right thing, all of it." "Thank you, Captain." When they were alone again, Alara moved to the desk, looking at the mountain of work ahead. "This is what you're signing up for," Lucian said, coming to stand beside her. "Late nights, difficult choices, constant challenges." "Sounds terrible," she said lightly. "When do I start?" "You already have." He pulled her close, and she let herself lean into him, solid and steady. "The girl who walked into the lion's den is now standing in his house as an equal. How does that feel?" Alara thought about it, about the journey from desperation to this moment, about everything lost and everything gained. "It feels," she said finally, "like coming home." And in the fading light of evening, with the duchy settling into uncertain peace and a future unwritten before them, she finally let herself believe it. She'd survived the conspiracy, exposed the truth, chosen honor over blood, and in doing so, found something she'd never expected: a place to belong, a purpose to serve, and a man who saw her not as a ruined name or a convenient pawn, but as exactly who she was. The woman who'd saved his life. The woman who'd changed everything. 3 months later, the first snow of winter fell soft and silent over Drax Hall. Alara stood at the window of what had once been her mother's sitting room, now restored, refurnished, and transformed into her private office. Below, the estate gardens lay peaceful under their white blanket. Beyond them, the duchy spread out in all directions, prosperous and healing. So much had changed. The trials had concluded 2 weeks prior. Lord Ashford and his primary conspirators had been executed publicly, their deaths witnessed by thousands. The message had been clear. Corruption would not be tolerated, regardless of rank or connection. The lesser conspirators sat in prison cells, their influence broken, their names disgraced. And the Vance name, so recently synonymous with shame, had been restored to honor. But that restoration hadn't come easily. The weeks following the sentencing had been brutal. Nobles who'd shunned her suddenly wanted audiences, making excuses for their past coldness. Merchants who'd refused her family credit now fawned over her restored status. The hypocrisy had been almost too much to bear. Almost. "You look contemplative." Alara turned to find Lucien in the doorway, snowflakes dusting his dark hair. He'd been out riding, checking the northern borders where repairs were underway on trade routes her father had once controlled. Routes that were hers now. "Just thinking about how strange life is," she said. 3 months ago, I was living in a boarding house, barely surviving. Now I'm a landed lady with more responsibility than I know what to do with. You're managing admirably." He crossed to her, brushing snow from his coat. "The trade negotiations with the northern merchants went well, I hear." "They did, Though I suspect half of them only showed up because they're curious about the scandalous Vance daughter who saved the Duke's life. Let them be curious. You negotiated favorable terms regardless. Pride colored his voice. The duchy's commerce will benefit significantly. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Lucian noticed immediately. What's wrong? Nothing. Everything. I don't know. She gestured vaguely. I have everything I thought I wanted. My name cleared, my property restored, respect instead of scorn. So why do I feel like something's still missing? Because restoration isn't the same as healing, he said quietly. You got justice, but justice doesn't bring back the dead. The truth of it settled over her like the snow outside. Soft, cold, inescapable. She still dreamed of Marcus sometimes, of his anger, his pain, his final accusation. You sold me out. I made the right choice, she said, more to herself than to him. I know I did, but it doesn't feel right. It never does. Lucien's hand found hers. The right choice is often the hardest one. That's what makes it right. Before she could respond, rapid footsteps echoed in the corridor. Iris burst in, cheeks flushed with excitement. Alara, you have to come downstairs. There are people here to see you. People? From the city, dozens of them. They're gathering in the courtyard. Unease prickled down Alara's spine. Why? I don't know, but they're asking for you specifically. Iris grabbed her hand. Come on! The three of them descended to the main hall, where Captain Thorne waited with a concerned expression. Your Grace, Miss Vance, we have a situation. Approximately 40 commoners have gathered outside requesting audience with Miss Vance. They're peaceful, but insistent. What do they want? Alara asked. To speak with you. That's all they'll say. Lucien's jaw tightened. It could be a trap. Another conspiracy. It's not, Alara said, surprising herself with the certainty. If they wanted to hurt me, they wouldn't announce themselves. You can't know that. No, but I'm going out there anyway. She met his eyes. Trust me? For a long moment he didn't answer. Then, always. But I'm coming with you. The courtyard was indeed filled with people, men and women in working clothes, farmers and merchants and craftspeople. They parted as Alara and Lucien emerged, creating a path. An older woman stepped forward, weathered and dignified. Miss Vance, she said, voice carrying, thank you for seeing us. Of course. What can I do for you? It's more what we want to do for you, miss. The woman glanced at the crowd behind her. We're here to apologize. And to thank you. Alara blinked. I don't understand. 6 years ago, when your father was convicted, we believed the worst. Believed he was a thief, a traitor. We shunned your family, refused you service, turned away from your mother when she needed help. Shame colored the woman's face. We were wrong, and we're sorry. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. You don't need to apologize, Alara said, throat tight. You believed what the evidence showed. We believed what was convenient, another voice called out. A baker Alara recognized from the market. Easier to think your father was guilty than to question the powerful men who said so. But you questioned them, the older woman continued. You fought for the truth even when it could have gotten you killed. You saved the Duke's life, exposed a conspiracy, risked everything for justice. She stepped closer. You showed us what real courage looks like. And we wanted you to know that we see you now. We see who you really are. Tears pricked Alara's eyes. I wasn't trying to be courageous, she said. I was just trying to survive. That's what courage is, miss. Doing what's right when survival means doing what's easy. The woman reached into her pocket, pulling out a small wooden token carved with the Vance family crest. We had these made, all of us, to remember, to honor your family's name properly this time. She pressed it into Alara's hand. Around the courtyard, others held up similar tokens, dozens of them, catching the light. We failed you once, the woman said. We won't again. You have the support of the people, Miss Vance. All of them. The crowd erupted in affirmation. Alara stood frozen, the token warm in her palm, unable to speak past the emotion choking her. Lucien's hand found the small of her back, steadying her. Thank you, she managed finally. All of you. This means more than you know. We know you're working to restore the trade routes, the baker called out. If you need workers, craftsmen, supplies, we're ready. Just say the word. And if those northern merchants give you trouble, another voice added, we'll make sure they regret it. Laughter rippled through the crowd, warm and genuine. Alara found herself smiling through tears. I'll remember that. Thank you. The gathering dispersed slowly, people offering words of encouragement as they left. The older woman was the last to go, gripping Alara's hand one final time. Your mother would be proud, she said quietly. What you've become, what you've accomplished. She'd be so proud. Then she was gone, and Alara stood in the snow-dusted courtyard with Lucian, Iris, and Thorn, holding a carved token and feeling like her heart might burst. Well, Thorn said gruffly, that was unexpected. That was beautiful, Iris corrected, wiping her own eyes. Alara, did you see their faces? They love you. They don't know me. They know enough. Lucian's voice was soft. They know you fought for truth when lies were easier. That's all people really need to know. Back inside, Alara found she couldn't settle. Restless energy hummed through her veins. She ended up in the library, pulling out the ledgers from her father's case, reading them with new eyes. Understanding, finally, what Marcus had seen. The manipulation had been brilliant. Every fake transaction carefully crafted to look legitimate. Every forged signature just different enough to suggest her father's hand, but not obviously false. Ashford had been a master at his craft, and her father had walked right into the trap. You're torturing yourself. She looked up to find Lucy Sien settling into the chair across from her. I'm trying to understand, she said, how it happened, how father didn't see it. Because he trusted the wrong people. We all do, sometimes. Do you? She met his eyes. Trust the wrong people? I trusted Ashford for years, Thomas too. They sat at my table, advised on critical decisions. His expression darkened. So yes, I absolutely trust the wrong people. But you learn. You adapt. Eventually, he leaned forward. Alara, what are you really trying to figure out? The question cut to the heart of it. Whether I can do this, she admitted. Run estates, manage trade routes, navigate politics. I was raised for it, trained for it, but I never actually lived it. And now everyone's counting on me. The merchants, the workers, the people who just apologized in the courtyard. What if I fail them? Then you'll get up and try again. Simple. Direct. That's what leadership is. Not perfection. Persistence. You make it sound easy. It's not. It's terrifying. He smiled slightly. But you're not doing it alone. You have advisors, allies, me. You? Did you think I'd let you struggle through this without help? I'm invested now. His hand covered hers. In the duchy's prosperity. In your success. In you. The weight of it. His faith, his support, his presence felt like an anchor in uncertain seas. I'm going to make mistakes, she warned. Undoubtedly. Big ones, probably. Almost certainly. And you're okay with that? I'm okay with you trying. The rest we'll figure out together. He stood, pulling her up with him. Come on. There's something I want to show you. He led her through corridors to the east wing, an area she'd rarely visited. At the end of a long hallway, he opened a door to reveal a large chamber, empty except for a massive table in the center. Maps covered the table, not just of the duchy, but of the surrounding territories, trade routes marked in colored ink. This was my father's war room, Lucian said, where he planned campaigns, negotiated treaties, built alliances. Why are you showing me this? Because I want it to be yours. He gestured to the maps. The duchy is changing, Alara. The corruption we uncovered, the conspiracies we exposed, they revealed weaknesses in our systems. We need to rebuild, strengthen, and I want you to help me do it. I'm not a strategist. You navigated a deadly conspiracy with nothing but your wits and courage. You talked down armed men without a weapon. You saw patterns the rest of us missed. His intensity pinned her in place. You're exactly the kind of strategist I need. Lucian, I can't just... This is duchy business. I'm not... You're a landholder, a noble, someone the people trust. He moved closer. You have every right to be involved in duchy governance. The question is whether you want to be. The offer hung between them, massive and terrifying. This wasn't just about managing her restored estates. This was about real power, real influence, real responsibility. What exactly are you proposing? She asked carefully. A formal position. Advisor on commerce and trade initially, but with the understanding that your role will grow as you're ready. He pulled out a document from the table. I had the council draw this up, pending your acceptance. She read, heart pounding. The position came with authority over trade negotiations, oversight of merchant guilds, input on taxation policy. It was significant, powerful, everything she'd never dared dream of having. The council approved this? She asked. Unanimously. After what you did, exposing the conspiracy, saving Iris, standing up to Ashford, they respect you. Some fear you a little, which is healthy. This is insane. This is necessary. He took her hands. The duchy needs people who care about truth more than advancement. You've proven you're that person. So yes, I'm asking you to take on more responsibility, to stand beside me as we rebuild. Beside you? As an equal, a partner. His eyes held hers. In governance. And if you're willing, in everything else. The implication stole her breath. Everything else, she repeated. I'm not good at this, Lucian said, suddenly awkward, at saying what I mean, but you... He stopped, started again. From the moment you walked into that ballroom wearing a mask and warning me about assassins, you've challenged every assumption I had. About loyalty, about truth, about what it means to lead. I think that's called being annoying. It's called being extraordinary. He cupped her face. I don't want to imagine this duchy without you. I don't want to imagine my life without you. So I'm asking, badly apparently, if you'll stay, not as an employee or an advisor, as my partner, my equal, my... She kissed him before he could finish, pouring everything she couldn't say into it. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Lucien smiled. Is that a yes? It's a, let me think about the formal position while I process the rest of what you just said. Fair enough. He kissed her again, soft and sweet. Take your time. I'll be here. That evening, Ilara walked the estate grounds alone, needing space to think. The snow had stopped, leaving everything crystalline and perfect. Her breath misted in the cold air. She found herself at the family cemetery, a small plot on the edge of the property where Vance's ancestors rested. 2 new headstones stood fresh and white. Her father's, brought back from the prison cemetery and placed with honor, and Marcus's, carved with the dates of his too short life. She knelt between them, snow soaking through her skirts. I don't know if you can hear me, she said quietly. I don't know if it matters, but I need to say this. The words came haltingly at first, then faster. Father, I understand now what happened to you. How they manipulated you, used your ambition against you. I'm sorry I ever believed you were just greedy. You deserved better. Her hand touched the cold stone. And Marcus, her voice broke. I'm sorry I couldn't save you. Sorry I chose differently than you wanted. You were right about the conspiracy and I should have listened sooner. Tears froze on her cheeks. But I couldn't let you kill him. Couldn't watch you destroy yourself for revenge. I hope, wherever you are, you understand that. Silence answered her. She stayed there until full dark, talking to stones and ghosts, and the memory of who her family had been. When she finally stood, frozen and aching, she felt lighter somehow. Not healed, not whole, but at peace with the choices she'd made. A week later, the council convened for the first time since the conspiracy's exposure. Ilara sat at the table, not as a guest or observer, but as a full member. The formal appointment had been announced that morning, met with a mix of approval and skepticism. She wore green velvet, the Vance family crest embroidered at her collar. A statement, a claim. Lord Merrick, the eldest counselor, regarded her with open curiosity. Miss Vance, welcome to the chaos. Thank you, my lord. I'll try not to add to it. Please do add to it, Lady Harrow said from across the table. We've been far too comfortable. Comfort breeds complacency, as recent events proved. Murmurs of agreement. Lucien Bourset called the meeting to order, and they dove into business: trade agreements, tax reforms, infrastructure repairs. Alara listened more than she spoke initially, learning the rhythms of governance, the careful dance of compromise and assertion. But when discussion turned to the northern trade routes, she leaned forward. "If I may," she said. All eyes turned to her. "The northern merchants are asking for reduced tariffs in exchange for exclusive agreements. I've reviewed the proposal, and I believe we can do better." Lord Merrick's eyebrows rose. "Better how?" "By opening the routes to competitive bidding. Let multiple merchant groups compete for access. We maintain our tariff rates while they compete on service quality and delivery times." "That could alienate the northern merchants," someone objected. "Or it could create a marketplace that benefits everyone," Alara countered. "Competition drives innovation. We give them fair terms, just not exclusive ones." "And if they refuse?" "Then we work with the Eastern guilds instead. They've already expressed interest." She slid a document across the table. "I took the liberty of opening preliminary discussions." Lucian's smile was subtle but proud. "A bold approach," Lady Harrow said. "I like it." "Risky," Lord Merrick added, but he was nodding. "But potentially very profitable. I vote we pursue it." The discussion continued, but Alara had made her mark. As the meeting adjourned, counselors approached her with questions, suggestions, respect. She was no longer the disgraced daughter they'd pitied or the scandal they'd gossiped about. She was a force they had to reckon with. That night, Lucian found her in the war room, studying maps by candlelight. "You were magnificent today," he said. "I was nervous." "You hit it well." He joined her at the table. "The Northern Merchant's proposal was brilliant. It was practical and possibly reckless. The best strategies usually are." He traced a route on the map. "You're going to reshape this duchy's commerce. You know that, right?" "I'm going to try." She looked up at him. "With your support." "Always." He pulled her close. "Though I should warn you, the other nobles are starting to notice how much time we spend together. There will be talk." "There's already talk. Apparently I'm either a scheming seductress who manipulated her way into your favor, or a tragic victim you're rescuing out of guilt. Which would you prefer to be?" "Neither. I'd prefer to be what I actually am." "Which is?" "A woman who saved your life, exposed a conspiracy, and is now helping rebuild what was broken." She smiled. "Though scheming seductress does have a certain appeal." He laughed, the sound rich and warm. "You're impossible." "You keep saying that like it's a bad thing. It's my favorite thing about you." 4 months after that council meeting, spring arrived with explosive color. The duchy bloomed, literally and figuratively. Trade flourished under the new competitive system. Infrastructure repairs completed ahead of schedule. The treasury showed surpluses for the first time in years. And through it all, Alara worked. She negotiated with merchants who'd once refused to see her, mediated disputes between guilds, traveled to border towns to assess needs personally. The people who'd gathered to apologize that snowy day became her strongest advocates, spreading word of the lady who actually listened, who cared about common prosperity as much as noble profit. Her influence grew, not through manipulation or scheming, but through competence and genuine concern. The council that had skeptically accepted her now actively sought her input. Nobles who'd snubbed her now courted her favor. And Lucien watched it all with a mixture of pride and something deeper. "You've become what I always hoped a partner could be," he told her one evening as they walked the gardens. "Someone who challenges me, improves me, makes the duchy better by existing in it." "Careful," she teased. "That's starting to sound like a proposal." "Would you say yes if it was?" The question hung between them, suddenly serious. Alara stopped walking, turning to face him. "Are you asking?" "Not yet." His smile was soft. "When I ask, it won't be in a garden where anyone could overhear. It'll be somewhere private, meaningful, and I'll do it properly." "I don't need proper." "I know, but I do." He touched her cheek. "Because what I feel for you isn't casual or convenient. It's everything. And when I ask you to share your life with me officially, I want the moment to match the gravity of what I'm offering. Which is partnership, equality, A future built on truth instead of tradition. His eyes held hers. A life where you're never invisible again. Tears blurred her vision. That's a lot to promise. Then I'd better make good on it. 2 weeks later, Lucien called her to the war room. She entered to find it transformed. Maps cleared away, a single table set in the center with candles and dinner for two. "What's this?" she asked. "This is me asking properly." He pulled out a chair for her. "Sit, please." She did, heart racing. Lucien sat across from her, and for a moment just looked at her, really looked, like he was memorizing every detail. "When you walked into that masked ball," he began, "I thought you were either brave or insane. Turns out you were both. Not the most romantic opening." "I'm getting there," he smiled. "You challenged everything I thought I knew. About justice, about truth, about what it means to lead. You showed me that sometimes the right answer comes from the most unexpected places." He stood, moving around the table to kneel beside her chair. "You've become essential to this duchy, to its prosperity, its integrity, its future." His hand found hers. "But more than that, you've become essential to me, to who I want to be, what I want to build." From his pocket he pulled a ring, simple gold set with an emerald the color of her eyes. "Alara Vance, would you marry me? Not because it's expected or convenient, but because I cannot imagine facing another day, another challenge, another triumph without you beside me." The world narrowed to this moment, this man, this offer, this choice. She could say no, could maintain her independence, her separate identity, or she could say yes, could choose partnership, shared purpose, a future built together. "Yes," she said, voice steady despite the tears. "Yes, I'll marry you." The smile that broke across his face was incandescent. He slipped the ring onto her finger, then kissed her with a tenderness that made her soul ache. "I love you," he said against her lips. "I should have said that first, but I love you." "I love you too." The words felt like freedom. Even when you're being impossibly ducal. Especially then? Especially then. They announced the engagement the next morning. The duchy erupted in celebration. Nobles who'd scorned her rushed to offer congratulations. Merchants sent gifts. The common people gathered in the streets, cheering. Lady Iris threw herself at Alara with enough force to nearly knock her over. "I knew it! I knew you'd end up together!" The girl was practically vibrating with excitement. "Can I help plan the wedding? Please say yes. I have so many ideas." "Yes, you can help," Alara laughed. "But Iris, nothing too extravagant. Please." "Define extravagant." Iris. "Fine. Tastefully extravagant." Even Captain Thorne, normally stoic, cracked a smile when he heard the news. "About time," he told Lucien. "I was beginning to think you'd lost your nerve." "Never," Lucien replied, "just waiting for the right moment." "And finding it in a war room?" Thorne shook his head. "You really are terrible at romance." "She said yes, didn't she?" Miracles do happen. The wedding took place 3 months later, as summer reached its zenith. They held it not in a cathedral or grand hall, but in the estate gardens where Lucien had first asked her to stay. Simple, meaningful, perfect. Alara wore cream silk embroidered with the Vance and Drax crests intertwined, a symbol of union, not absorption. Iris stood as her attendant, radiant in pale blue. Thorne stood with Lucien, somehow making formal wear look threatening. The ceremony was brief. Vows spoken clearly, rings exchanged, a kiss that made the gathered crowd cheer. But it was the reception that revealed how completely Alara's world had transformed. Nobles and commoners mingled freely. Merchants danced with lords. The barriers of class bent, if not broke entirely. At one point, the older woman from that snowy day approached, pressing another carved token into Alara's hand. "This one's different," she said, "for your new beginning." Alara looked down. The token showed 2 crests intertwined, just like her dress. "Thank you," she said, hugging the woman impulsively. "For everything. Thank you, my lady, for showing us what's possible." As evening fell and lanterns lit the gardens, Lucian pulled Alara onto the dance floor. "Happy?" he asked as they swayed to music. "Terrified," she admitted. "Becoming a duchess? Taking on more responsibility? What if I fail?" "Then we fail together," he spun her gently. "But I don't think you will. You've already proven you can survive anything. Survival isn't the same as success. No, but it's the foundation of it." He pulled her closer. "We'll build something extraordinary, Alara. Not because we're perfect, but because we're willing to try. Even when it's hard. Especially then." She rested her head against his shoulder, letting the music carry them. Around them, the duchy celebrated, nobles and commoners, old allies and former enemies, all united in the moment. It wasn't perfect. Challenges remained. Political tensions simmered. Economic uncertainties loomed. But for tonight, there was joy and hope, and the certainty that whatever came next, they'd face it together. 1 year later, Alara stood in the council chamber presenting her annual commerce report. The numbers were staggering, trade revenues up 40%. New merchant agreements with 5 neighboring territories. Infrastructure projects completed on time and under budget. The duchy thrived. "Remarkable, Lord Merrick said, reviewing the figures. "Quite remarkable, Your Grace." Your Grace. The title still felt foreign, but she was learning to wear it. "It's the result of collaboration," Alara said. "Between the council, the merchants, the workers, everyone contributed." "But you coordinated it all," Lady Harrow pointed out. "Give yourself credit." "I will if you approve the next phase." Alara slid another proposal across the table. Expansion of the northern routes, establishment of 3 new trading posts, and a guild training program to ensure quality standards. The council reviewed, debated, ultimately approved. As the meeting adjourned, Lucian caught her hand. "You're extraordinary," he said quietly. "You know that, right? I'm just doing my job. Your job is reshaping the duchy's entire economic structure. That's more than just doing your job." She smiled, squeezing his hand. "Maybe, but I had good teachers. And even better instincts." That evening, she found herself back in the family cemetery. Fresh flowers adorned her father's and brother's graves. She came weekly now, a ritual of remembrance and peace. "You were right, Marcus," she said to the stone. "About the conspiracy. About father being set up. I'm sorry I didn't believe you sooner." The wind rustled through nearby trees. "But you were wrong about one thing. Lucien isn't the enemy. He never was. He was just a man doing his job, manipulated like father was." She traced the carved letters of her brother's name. "I forgave him. I hope, wherever you are, you can too." A hand settled on her shoulder. Lucien stood beside her, having followed silently. "Do you think he'd be proud?" she asked. "Of what I've become?" "I think he'd be complicated about it," Lucian said honestly. "Proud of your success, angry about the circumstances, wishing things had gone differently." That's a very diplomatic answer. "I'm a duke. Diplomacy is my specialty." He pulled her close. "But honestly, I think he'd be relieved you survived, that you found happiness despite everything." "I hope so." They stood together in the fading light, honoring the dead while celebrating the life they'd built. Later, in their private chambers, Alara found a letter waiting. The seal was unfamiliar, not ducal, not noble, just plain wax. She opened it carefully. "Duchess Alara, you don't know me, but I knew your brother. We worked together in the weeks before his death, investigating the conspiracy. He spoke of you often, with frustration, yes, but also with love. He wanted to protect you from what he'd discovered, even as he resented your choices. I wanted you to know that in the end, he understood. The night before his death, he told me that if anything happened to him, I should tell you he was sorry, for dragging you into danger, for not trusting you to choose wisely. He said you always were the smart one. I couldn't deliver this message sooner. I was in hiding, afraid I'd be next. But I'm safe now, thanks to the conspiracy's exposure, and I wanted you to have this piece of closure. Your brother loved you, even when he was angry, especially then. A friend." Tears streamed down Alara's face. Lucienne found her like that, clutching the letter, sobbing. What happened? Alarm sharpened his voice. She handed him the letter wordlessly. He read, understanding dawning. Oh, Ilara. He gathered her close. He forgave you. He shouldn't have had to, she said brokenly. I should have saved him, should have found another way. There was no other way. You know that. Knowing and accepting are different things. Yes, they are. He pressed his lips to her hair. But you're allowed to grieve what you couldn't save while being proud of what you did. She cried until there were no tears left. And when the storm passed, she felt lighter. Not healed completely. Some wounds never fully close. But healing. Finally, truly healing. 5 years after their wedding, Ilara stood on the balcony overlooking the duchy. Spring had returned, painting the world in renewal. Below, the estate grounds bustled with activity. Merchants arriving for the quarterly trade summit, nobles gathering for council sessions, common people moving freely through areas once restricted. So much had changed. The duchy prospered under joint leadership. Ilara's commerce reforms had become models for neighboring territories. Trade flourished. Infrastructure expanded. And the people loved their duchess, who'd once been nothing, who understood struggle, who fought for fairness. Inside, she heard laughter. She turned to find Lucien emerging onto the balcony, their daughter balanced on his hip. 3-year-old Mara had her mother's dark hair and her father's gray eyes, and absolutely no fear of anything. "Mama," the child demanded, reaching for her. Ilara took her daughter, settling her on her hip. "What mischief have you been causing?" "No mischief," Lucien said. "She merely convinced the kitchen staff to give her cake before dinner." "That's definitely mischief." "Smart mischief," he corrected. "She negotiated, promised to eat all her vegetables later." "She's 3. She can't negotiate. She said please very convincingly. What was I supposed to do?" Ilara laughed, the sound bright and free. This life, this beautiful, complicated, hard-won life, was everything she'd never dared dream of. "What are you thinking?" Lucien asked, slipping an arm around her waist. "That I used to be invisible," she said softly. "A girl no one noticed, no one valued. And now? Now you're the most visible person in the duchy," he finished. "The woman everyone notices, everyone values. Is that good?" "It's extraordinary." He kissed her temple. "You're extraordinary." Mara squirmed, pointing at the gardens. "Down! Play!" "In a moment, little one." Ilara held her daughter close, savoring the weight of her. "First, tell me what you want to be when you grow up." "Duchess," Mara announced proudly. "Like Mama." "High aspirations," Lucien said, grinning. "Smart girl," Ilara corrected. She looked at her husband, her daughter, the duchy spread before them. "Though I hope her path is easier than mine." "It will be." "Because she'll grow up knowing her mother walked through fire and came out stronger." Lucien's expression sobered. "She'll know that circumstances don't define you. Choices do. And that sometimes the right choice is the hardest one. Especially that." They stood together, a family forged from scandal and conspiracy, from betrayal and survival. The girl who'd walked into the lion's den wearing a silver mask was gone. In her place stood a woman who commanded rooms filled with power, a duchess who'd earned every ounce of respect she received, a mother teaching her daughter that strength comes from standing up when the world wants you to bow down, the woman who'd rewritten her fate. And as the sun set over the duchy, painting everything in shades of gold and rose, Ilara understood with perfect clarity survival had never been the goal. The goal had been to live, to build something meaningful from the ruins of what was destroyed, to choose honor over blood, truth over lies, and love over fear. She'd done all of that. And the story of the invisible girl who became a duchess, who saved a duke, exposed a conspiracy, and changed everything, would echo through generations, not as a cautionary tale, but as proof that the boldest act of survival isn't running from danger, it's choosing who you stand with, and never, ever backing down.